Hello, 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 hello. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everybody attending this wonderful event. I'm going to play a short video and then we're going to get the party started. All right. Well, it is an absolute pleasure to have you all with us here today. My name is Joaquin Melara, and I am the founder of the Swarm community. For the last 10 months, I have been dedicating my time, energy, and focus to develop virtual conferences around the responsible usage of AI tech. And, I can say with full confidence after developing these events that I'm really proud and happy and excited to be here for this particular event because the quality of the speakers, the moderator, the community, and just the overall energy of this event program is unparalleled. I can tell you that Christina has put a lot of effort to develop this environment, and just everything that she does, you can tell that she does it with enthusiasm and with a lot of positive energy. So I would like to introduce Cristina Imre, the founder of Tech Leadership Lab and the creator of the Earth CEO honorary title. She has spent the last 2 decades driving transformational change within organizations through her work as an executive coach, serial entrepreneur, and fractional executive. Over the last 12 months, Christina has fostered a community of purpose driven leaders committed to solving the world's most pressing problems. Her holistic views on leadership focus on the limitless potential of individuals and their capacity for evolution, and this all underscores her mission to empower changemakers worldwide. Without further ado, please welcome Christina.
Oh my God. So I cannot believe that it's 11 September and we are 1 year after everything started. I am so excited and in that kind of wow state because so many things happened. I mean, yesterday I was alone and I was thinking, okay, I really want to start a movement around the globe. And because I always thought about things globally, I think that we are one species. This is the way I truly relate to you, Joaquin, Melara. This is the way I relate to all of our community members who are here with us. And I hope you had a networking event like no other, because I also enjoyed the experience on the other side. And I hope that you're here with us to celebrate. And I'm so delighted to see a huge community that we have today inside Tech Leadership Lab, because when everything started, my desire and wish was to build a better future where the kids of today, including my own, to have role models who guide them through a sustainable future where we can all stand each other, befriend each other, relate to each other as one species. Because if you just check humanity from the cosmos or from space, you will see how tiny we are. But we inherited a very beautiful planet, a green planet with the luscious trees and with so much good food and with water and with all those resources that are not evenly distributed. But today we have the technology, we have the desire, we have the people who want to create a statement and who truly wants to bring humanity together. And that being said, I believe that if we can rise the right amount of good ethical leadership on top of things, we can have that future we all desire. I mean, just think about it. Let's just dream together. You can choose to wake up tomorrow and decide that you will have a new life where you don't see an enemy, you don't see the division, you don't see the borders, you don't see that someone else is different than you. Because yes, we are unique, but we are also the same. And when you consider things like this, everything can shift. We can change everything around our system because that system is not old. We invented periodically systems that bring us into the future. But we can choose to decide that, okay, the money system is not good. We need to shift it, the financial system, the way we relate to each other, the way we take decisions. And we show through history that we can ally together as one community, as one species, in order to create something beautiful. No one stops us in creating a happier society where we are all included, where we can see the differences but appreciate it like a beautiful garden. Just imagine if you have a garden with the same type of flower and the same color. It would be so dull. It wouldn't bring you anywhere. But now imagine that same garden with tons of different flavors and colors and species of flowers and new kind of inventions around that. And so, how beautiful is that? It's like a painting, it's an artistry that we can create together. And this is how I see humanity. And I'm not the only one. Through this first year with Tech Leadership Lab, I finally saw that we have everything we need to shift. But we have to bring the right type of leadership in front of us to bring us that kind of motivation, inspiration, and hope. We need hope back. And many people said to me, oh, hope is lame. And I consider that as a serial entrepreneur myself. But you know what? Hope is needed. For today's world and the environment is the first step, and it's a huge step. Because once the young generation, and we included, start to think that, okay, yes, I see there are the people, there are the communities who are doing this for the right causes, not just for the money and for the selfish reasons that some leaders are leading their way, and they corrupt the means and they corrupt the vision about a good society that we are living and with good people. And so not just bringing back hope, but TLL, it is that kind of growing ecosystem, global ecosystem. And today, as we are speaking here in our audience, we know for sure that we have people from around the globe. And I'm so grateful for that. We have all continents covered. And this is just the proof that people want to unite. And with
Christina,
that being said, yes?
I'd love to ask, where did this idea of Earth CEO come from? What what
Yes.
what led you to, say, I want to put this event together. I want to invite all these change makers, everybody in this sustainability SDG space. What led you to that?
I was preparing this for over a year. So last year at my birthday, when I usually do a retrospect about what I achieved till then and what I want to do in the future, I had this kind of constant bugging in my mind about leadership, top leadership. I was so unhappy about how things are working, and many, of course, we have amazing top leaders, but what we are seeing from the screens, from mainstream, is so much division. And I said, we don't have the right leaders on top. I mean, I know so many awesome people, and you don't see them as our guides and our energy. And so I wanted to show that this is possible and we can do this together. So I started to think about the concept: what type of leadership could be a legacy leadership for the future? What type of leaders we could nurture and put on front of things? And I started to take notes and write this concept, and then I brainstormed it myself, and eventually I got to this notion of Earth CEO. And CEO because I associate this as an entrepreneur with the tech startup CEOs who are so agile and quick in everything that they are doing, because technology brings us into the future quicker through innovation. So I saw a CEO as a founder or a co-founder who is hustling to create something amazing and connect the present to the future in a good way. And so this is how our CEO took place. And I said, oh my God, this is a concept that could just evolve, evolve, evolve. And when the right time comes, I will put it on the mainstream, let's say. And this right time came with you, Joaquin, and you helped me with this. So I'm so happy to celebrate this concept with you all today.
I really enjoy that the view comes into focus that it's not the actions of this quarter, it's not the profits that we make, rather it's the generations after us and the long-term view that we want to shift our mindset to. We can't we can't live in a zero-sum game. We need to be thinking about how to empower our children and our grandchildren, because they will inherit the earth after we're gone. So with all that being said, I think we're getting to the time where we are going to introduce our very first speaker. I'm going to play a short video introduction, and then yeah, the floor will be all yours. Here we go.
Wonderful. And until then, just a couple of words. People, please write your comments, ask your questions, unite with others, because we are here to truly create that ecosystem, that one society, one species that can build that kind of beautiful, sustainable future for us all. And enjoy our
Oh,
today. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce our first speaker, Tammy Luis, who is part of our community. And some of you already know her because she was also part of our events in the past. And she is a visionary founder and CEO of Community of Guardians. And now she's dedicating every single second of hers to build something amazing. Tammy is a powerful advocate for sustainability. She has a strong voice I love so much because she's always talking with a lot of conviction and passion. She has personal responsibility with her background, helping people everywhere become stewards of the earth, and through science-based action, because she is also a scientist and a researcher. So she will have a keynote today for us, igniting the world to action by empowering the individual. And today, Tammy will share with us her insights about how we as individuals can make real, measurable contributions to solving the world's most pressing problems. As you know, that it's TLS mission. Get ready to be inspired by her passion and practical approach, empowering people as guardians of our planet. Tammy, the stage is yours.
So thank you everyone for being here. I am honored to have this opportunity to introduce you to the Community of Guardians, a platform with one mission: to ignite the world to action by empowering individuals just like you. So in a world faced with unprecedented challenges from climate change to inequality, Community of Guardians aims to bridge the gap between science and community action. So today I'd like to share how we live in a world where political rhetoric has become a weapon. The language we once used to build trust has been co-opted and corrupted. We are no longer simply disagreeing, we're being divided. And we're no longer simply disagreeing about everything. The common vocabulary, which in essence helped us navigate the differences, has basically eroded. And without it, our ability to address pressing issues like climate change, inequality, and public health is severely hindered. It is vital now more than ever that we rebuild trust in the one thing that can unite us in truth and purpose: science. So in this presentation, we're going to explore how the Community of Guardians mobilizes people to address global challenges through action on the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. By making science accessible, engaging individuals and communities, and using gamification, we help people take meaningful steps toward a more sustainable future. The Community of Guardians is more than just a platform. It's a purpose, it's a response to the divisions that we're facing. We believe in the power of science to break down barriers, foster understanding, and unite us in common purpose. By the end of this presentation, I hope you will see how you can become a real-life superhero, contributing to a better, more sustainable future. So I want to start by sharing what inspired me to create the Community of Guardians. The pandemic was a turning point for me. It was during COVID-19 pandemic where I witnessed firsthand that the mistrust in science was costing lives. This made me wonder, how can we possibly harness the power of science to improve not only our health, but the health of our planet, if we cannot even trust science to create us a vaccine? So I knew we needed a place where we could rebuild our trust in science and it could be used as a force for good. And from there, the idea basically was born of creating a platform to rebuild trust in science and empower action. So during this time, I had an inspiring encounter with an oak tree, which I will share with you now.
So many people have wondered what was the inspiration for the creation of the Community of Guardians. The best way for me to share the purpose and the meaning of our organization is to share some events that occurred prior to me creating the organization. I like to call this story Oscar the Oak. This story is about how I walked my dogs weekly in a beautiful ravine area in my city. During these walks, I would always stop to admire a massive, beautiful old oak tree along the edge of the ravine. It was truly a magnificent tree, and I'd always stop and I'd marvel at its height and its size and how strong it must have been to survive for so many years. One time, I happened to look over the edge of the ravine, and I was able to see the tree from the backside. I was absolutely horrified to see a huge crack down the backside of the tree trunk. It was big enough for someone to sit in, and I was absolutely heartbroken. How could this beautiful old oak tree have this huge scar? It haunted me all the way home from my walk. When I got home, I immediately went to my computer and I emailed an old biology professor I knew from my time at university. I shared some photos with him, and I begged him to tell me what I could do to save this beautiful tree. He assured me that the tree was going to be just fine. He told me that it looked well over 300 years old, and he said a lightning strike had probably hit it, and it was large enough to survive for many more years to come. He then went on to explain that the true risk populations of oak across Canada were experiencing was they were no longer propagating. The older trees were fine, but there was a significant reduction in the number of new saplings. He speculated that this might be due to climate change or some other ecosystem problem, but it was indeed a dire situation. I thought about that beautiful old oak tree that I had long admired, and I thought about it not being able to share its strength with the next generation of trees, and this saddened me. I asked, what can I do to help? He then shared information with me on how I could gather acorns and start saplings to plant new trees. I excitedly gathered 20 acorns and I checked them for viability, and I found one out of the initial 20. So I gathered another 20 and I found 2 more. So I proceeded to plant these 3 acorns, and I was incredibly happy when one sprouted. I named this little tree Oscar the Oak. And as I sat there admiring him, I thought to myself, what if more people knew about this? What if I wasn't the only one doing this? This wouldn't just be one tree. This would be an entire forest of oak trees. After experiencing this citizen science moment, an idea far greater than Oscar the Oak was created. I knew a place was needed where humanity could embrace its true guardian nature. A place where we could really learn how to be caretakers for not only our planet and the natural world, but also for one another. A place where knowledge experts could share their knowledge with groups of passionate people, and together we could make positive changes happen. This is how Oscar the Oak in the Community of Guardians idea was born. I hope after listening to this video, you will feel inspired and will want to come and join us to become a guardian. Together we can take action and we can make this world a better place.
So as you observed in the video, despite being scarred by a powerful lightning strike, this majestic tree stood tall, symbolizing resilience, and I was empowered to realize that I could play a role in helping to ensure that the next generation of trees thrived. So it was a profound moment that fueled my passion to create a platform where science and action meet to empower humanity. And these experiences inspired me to create a place where science is accessible, where misinformation is challenged, and where we can rebuild trust by engaging citizen science and collective action. So we know the problems we face, from climate change to inequality, and we have many solutions available. Yet there is a gap in action. Community of Guardians fills this gap by inspiring and measuring individual contributions towards sustainability. So Community of Guardians is a platform designed to inspire, measure, and celebrate action. It's not just about learning, it's about accountability and making tangible progress towards sustainability. So at the Community of Guardians, we align our work with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. These 17 goals provide a roadmap for tackling the world's most pressing issues. By using a framework, we ensure that every action on our platform is impactful and measurable, helping individuals contribute to global change. The SDGs offer a powerful tool for tracking global progress, and Community of Guardians uses them to help individuals and communities understand and contribute to solving global challenges. So for those that are unfamiliar, the SDGs are 17 global goals that aim to address humanity's greatest challenges by 2030. From poverty eradication to climate action, Community of Guardians enables members to work on specific SDGs and share their progress with the world. So we're nearing the 2030 goal the UN has set out, and many have mixed feelings on the usefulness and the practicality of the goals to achieve sustainability. But we at the Community of Guardians recognize the power and the scope of the indicator data set out under each SDG. This is a great way for us to collect data and share with our members and the world what action looks like when communities come together taking action. So who are we? We are real-life superheroes. At the Community of Guardians, we believe giving people hope and a sense of purpose. In a world filled with anxiety and instability, Community of Guardians offers a beacon of hope. By empowering individuals with the tools to make real difference, we inspire action and foster change for a brighter, more sustainable future. At the Community of Guardians, we see each individual as a superhero and show them the power of community action. So we want to invite everyone to step up and embrace their inner guardian. We believe that all of humanity has a sacred task to be a guardian on our planet. Each of us has a special purpose, and we all have the capacity to be superheroes, to champion a unique role as a protector of our planet. So together, we champion sustainability and create a future we can be proud to pass on to the next generation. So our vision is basically to use the power of education to bridge the gap between knowledge and action. To accelerate change and inspire innovation, we need to spark imagination and pride in taking meaningful actions that repair and rebuild our beautiful planet and all the life systems that live here. We have important core values that include transparency. We want science lessons and challenges to be accessible to all members who are seeking a way to take action. We want to share science in a plain language so that the important work being shared by the science community is accessible. We want to empower people, giving them tools to use education and advocacy and collective action to accelerate change. By shining a spotlight on the importance of science and the scientists and sharing lessons in plain language, making it accessible, we bridge the gap between knowledge and action. So Community of Guardians is basically a social platform where scientific communication, community engagement, and innovation meet. We bring together knowledge experts, which can be verified scientists, traditional indigenous knowledge keepers, and industry and government leaders to share lessons and challenges with passionate individuals eager to take action. And finally, famous ambassadors, stars from the entertainment and sports industry seeking an SDG goal to champion and rally their fans to encourage action. So how do we do all of this? Via the Community of Guardians online platform. So our platform is built around 3 essential components. Firstly, building community. Secondly, fostering learning. And thirdly, gamifying the experience. These elements create an engaging, action-driven environment where users can contribute to real-world change. I will now outline the key features of these important components. So at the heart of the Community of Guardians is collective impact, which can be described as the act of social change which occurs on a grand scale. So in neighborhoods and homes across the world, small and sometimes big actions will be happening, amplified on the platform. Members coming together to learn and take action that supports sustainability. So a place where we can have a common agenda, shared measurement, mutually reinforcing activities, continuous communication, and the backbone support provided by the science and knowledge experts. So the first step in implementing collective impact is rallying the members and making the issues personal. So we identified early in our pilot platform that many people are not aware of the power and the scope of the SDGs, and they're really unsure of what SDG best aligns with their passions and interests. So to solve this problem, we have created a novel and fun What's My Number quiz. This is an engaging personality style quiz that allows new members to find out their very own SDG number and then steer them to their group. on the platform, joining like-minded individuals who care about the same issues and begin learning and taking action. So you will find a link in the chat to this pilot quiz. I would love if participants today could give the quiz a try and share with me after the presentation if it accurately reflects your personal passions for making the world a better place. So after completing the quiz on our main page, members will be directed to their team group page. Each SDG has its very own group page where members can find challenges, share ideas, work together toward a common goal. These groups basically play a vital role in advancing the SDGs. To make SDG groups even more engaging, we have created a superhero team. Each SDG has its very own mascot, and members work together to tackle the corresponding goals shared by the voice of science. So there are 17 private group pages, which I mentioned, that users can join. And within each of these pages, users will find information about SDGs. This is basically information from the United Nations, a group community feed, and a link to all the challenges under that SDG. There will also be an SDG mini bank where each SDG group can basically access and fund a mini bank where donations can be made to fund large-scale challenges. So next, I am eager to share with all of you our entire team of sustainable superheroes. So as mentioned, we are not affiliated with the United Nations, and there are stringent requirements for using the tiles and the images related to the SDGs. So for this reason, Community of Guardians has designed our own symbols to represent the SDGs, and each superhero team plays a vital role in addressing the corresponding SDG, working collaboratively to build a more sustainable and equitable world. Each weapon visualized here that the mascot wields is powered by the Community of Guardians points accumulated across that SDG by members taking action. So we have 5 remaining superheroes in design phase, but these will be updated shortly and will be ready for our official launch. So through gamification, we enhance user engagement and drive social impact. Points, badges, trading cards, and challenges motivate users to take action aligned with the SDG. By incorporating these points, badges, and achievements that are visualized here, the platform can create a compelling, interactive experience that motivates users to take meaningful actions aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals. So the entire inventory of challenges will be accessible from the main page with specific challenges in each of the SDG individual group pages. Members will create a user profile, and the profile will allow users to track their Community of Guardians points, track the challenges they've completed, and it also allows us to verify credentials of knowledge experts, ensuring that the information shared on the platform upholds scientific integrity and combats mis- and disinformation. I'll now share a brief video that illustrates how knowledge experts play a role on the platform.
So how does the Community of Guardians support the SDGs? We simply use the SDG framework as a place to order and house our science-based lessons and challenges that support sustainability. We use this metric as it also gives us a clear, measurable indicator to show the community that action happening is moving the needle on sustainability within each SDG group. So, for example, if you're a social scientist studying homelessness, bring us a simple, plain language lesson on homelessness to support the SDGs in Group 1, and include an actionable challenge that members can accept to support the lesson. Or, if you're a medical researcher studying, say, obesity, bring us a lesson to SDG Group 3, alongside a simple, plain language challenge that members can do today to action obesity. I hope this makes it clear and you see the potential as you imagine the entire scope of the SDGs. We know the problems, we know the solutions. What's not happening is action.
So next up, I'd like to share a simple illustration of what a challenge looks like. This is an imaginary challenge that would be found under SDG Group 3 entitled the 5 for 5 Challenge, but shares real knowledge shared in the Canada Food Guide. This illustrates how governments can share knowledge and inspire action. In this case, on why vegetables and fruits are good for you. So the lesson, as you can see here, is in plain language, simple and easy for any age group to understand. The challenge is again in plain language and shows the number of points, the contributor level, the costs involved, and the age range. We aim to make it easy for users to find challenges and knowledge experts to submit lessons and challenges. So as previously mentioned, challenges and lessons can only be submitted by verified knowledge experts. Users are welcome to interact with knowledge experts and one another to get support completing challenges. The platform also shares benefits of citizen science and teaches users that in science, failure is not a bad thing, but part of the process. So for this reason, all challenges will allow users to gain some points, even if those fail, as the entire community will learn from this process. Members must post their challenge completion photos on the group feed and complete a challenge completion survey to be awarded points. This is an important accountability piece, but also allows us to collect UN indicator data as outlined by the United Nations under each SDG. This allows us to share with knowledge experts, sponsors, funders, and the community that the action is actually happening. Each SDG group will have a gauge showing real-time metrics as the challenge submissions are received. The main page will also share action that is happening across the SDGs and sharing a leaderboard of the members who are taking the most action. So as mentioned, this data can be shared with potential sponsors to verify that donations, support, and sponsorships are having real impact within each SDG group. We hope to use the What's My Number quiz as a way for companies, investors, ambassadors, and founders to support the SDGs via our platform, sharing with them key metrics to support that investment. The Community of Guardians platform aims to not only empower members, but shine a spotlight on everyone who is ready to step up and be a guardian. So as I conclude today, I want to return to my opening remarks and leave you with a simple but profound thought. Science is our shared language, a tool that transcends borders, beliefs, and backgrounds. Whether you're from Canada, the United States, or anywhere else on the planet, science follows one guiding principle, the search for truth. And it is through this relentless pursuit that we find common ground. The Community of Guardians in response to this division, and we believe that the power of science to break down barriers, to foster understanding, and to unite us in common purpose. Through transparent, plain language communication, we aim to rebuild trust in the very thing that holds the power to save us, science. The problems we face are global, and so must be our response. Science offers a way for us to connect, a way for us to understand, and a way for us to act together. Let us not forget that the pursuit of knowledge is at its very heart an act of love. Love for our planet, for each other, and for the generations to come. Let us use science to heal the divisions that have torn us apart, and let us harness the power of it to create a future where we as a global community thrive in harmony with the earth. So thank you for listening. I'm going to turn it back now to Christine.
This was great, Tammy, and I'm so happy that you could join us and also share what you are doing. For the last 3 years, I believe you were hustling a lot to create the community of guardians, bring it to the world, and connect science and create this kind of new wave of environmental stewardship that we all desire. And we are a global community. I'm in Europe, you're in Canada, we have the US, we have all continents covered here. And our community is not shy. So please, I want to see your inputs, your feedbacks, your comments, your questions in the chat, because, we love to just highlight them on the screen. And we do that for all of our events. This is a new platform for us. It's a different platform, but it doesn't mean that we don't read your comments and we don't want to interact. We had a networking event as well. And everyone wants to hear your voice and unite, because through unity, we can achieve everything that Tammy just said. Tammy, you are doing the work. You are not just a talker, you are a doer. And in recognition of your extraordinary contribution to sustainability, ethical leadership, and your commitment to the long well-being of the planet and the future generations in synergy with Mother Earth, it's an honor to present you with the Earth CEO distinction.
Wonderful. Thank you. That's amazing, Cristina. Thank you.
And with that being said, we are moving on to our next stage. And I am very, very delighted to have this opening. Joaquin, maybe you want to jump in a little bit. What do you think? How was the first moment and the first minutes, the first half an hour after the networking event? What would you say?
Tammy, fabulous. I read the abstract, but it's one thing to read the preview than to watch the actual presentation. And like Christina saying, you're a doer, and I see you enabling change. I see you not just planting the acorns, but teaching people how to plant the acorns. And I think that's the most important thing that can be done in this environment now, enabling change through social and educational improvement and empowerment. So yeah, I'm just absolutely blown away. I know this is just the start of the dialogue, and with this being the first event of our collaboration, I know in the future we're going to do much more good together.
And the first certifications just went live. I'm so excited because this will be a trend, and my desire is to enable more and more leaders to come on front of things and do their mission. I mean, let's bring everything to fruition to enable the change we all seek. So I encourage everyone to take the quiz. And what's your SDG number? You can find that in the comment section, and get in touch with Tammy Lewis and help her with her mission, because she's part of TLS's ecosystem, and we are just rolling out and beginning, because things will change and we will do much more from now on.
So thank you. I'm honored to have been a guest on this, and I appreciate the platform to share the mission. I think it's wonderful what you guys are doing. Thanks.
And feel free to connect with each other and to share your LinkedIn handles everywhere. And with that being said, we are moving to the next stage, right?
I just want to highlight Kanav Agarwal. He actually, we met in the networking session, but Tammy, he would be absolutely perfect for your community. He was looking for a technical co-founder. He wants to develop some sort of fertilizer. Yeah, I'm sure that after this event, everybody will have a chance to connect. And
welcome the connections. Anyone doing anything in the realm of sustainability, reach out. We can put a challenge and a lesson on the platform and get you support for what you're doing.
This is music to my ears. I love that. This is a great connection, especially for what you need. And I know that you had other connections as well through the TLR community, Tammy, that were helpful for your mission. And this is what we stand for. Awesome. Yeah. Ready for the next?
Yeah, let's, we're going to go with...
we are doing live business here. This is so exciting. This is what I love so much about our community. So for those of you who are for the first time,
yeah, so
so many things are happening, and just get in touch with us and keep close, because you won't regret that.
Without further ado, we'll play Lewis's interview and get the party on the road.
Every single one of you has about 85 billion neurons in your heads. And every one of those neurons is connected to thousands of others, which means there's over 100 trillion connections inside every human brain. It's the system formed by these interconnected neurons that make you who you are. Not just your intelligence, your personality, your creativity, your values and morals. Every one of us is a complex system of neurons. Simply put, a swarm is a brain of brains, and it can be smarter than any individual member.
Wonderful achievements, Luis. I mean, it's awesome to see that you have such an extensive background, and we already partnered. We had a pilot together, and we continue to work together with your new app, Thinkscape AI, because this is one of the things we can do to create that kind of collective swarm intelligence you are a pioneer of. And I'm super, super excited to navigate more in this area, because I truly believe, and Tech Leadership Lab mission represents that if we collectively unite our minds and our hearts about the future, we can gain to the right type of actions and missions that we can take together to truly build a sustainable future, not just for us, but for the future generations. And I love the fact that you are not just a researcher, scientist, engineer, innovator, entrepreneur, So this is huge by itself, and it is part of the mission. But you also symbolize a good human. And this aspect is super important inside TLR, because we had so many leaders who just run the show, but they don't care. They don't truly care just about the immediate gains. And this is something that brought us where we are today. But you, on the other hand, you wrote articles. I mean, when I researched you for the first time, I was so impressed. You have futuristic articles written, I mean, 10 years ago, 50 more, and just reaction, just shaping what type of reality you're seeing around the AI, around the robots, when things will evolve. So you had that kind of foresight, and you started also to warn about ethical leadership and what we need to consider in a way to just don't jeopardize our future, but make technology to work with us and be a helper, not to run us or ruin us or create dangerous situations in the future. You're a good human. I mean, when we had already an event before, the feedbacks were awesome. We had things like, I love Luis, something not so much often you have in this type of events. So people relate good to you. I believe that you're also a good leader in personal life. You're a family man. You have also a daughter who is an activist, and she's a leader with animal rights. But it shows that you are a family who cares, and then you want to extend what you know with the background of technology. So with that being said, how do you see the role of ethical leadership in guiding the future, especially in case of AI and emerging technologies?
Yeah, well, thanks for all those kind words. Yeah, I mean, from my perspective as a technologist and somebody who's founded a number of companies over the last 30 years, what I find from a technology perspective is that when I'm working on emerging technologies, especially AI, I tend to see the risks early, right? I see risks very often 10, 15 years before they become out there in the public, because I'm working on technologies that are 10, 15 years ahead. And so from my perspective, ethical leadership is really this responsibility to raise the alarm when you see these problems early. Warn the public, warn policymakers, warn stakeholders so that we can start working on solutions.
And now a very important question. Why do you care so much?
Yeah, my background and my PhD is really focused on that boundary between humans and technology. And so I work on advanced technologies, spent my whole career working on virtual reality, augmented reality, and artificial intelligence for decades. All three of those things have a real commonality in that they're ultimately going to change what it means to be human. These are technologies that change what we experience, change how we interact with the world, actually mediate. They sit between us and the world. If you're creating technologies that ultimately change how people experience reality, then it's a really big responsibility to make sure that we do this right, because there are so many really scary dystopian scenarios where technologies that are this powerful can be used as tools of manipulation, used as tools of subjugation that can take away human agency. And so while I'm a firm believer in the power of AI, the power of immersive technologies, and I really do believe that all of these technologies are converging to really enable a really powerful world where almost anything is possible, where we can interact with computing, not just on flat screens, but all around us, and everything is powered by AI. Well, I believe that there are really amazing, powerful things. They're just as the powers can be just as easily used against us, used to marginalize people, to reduce human agency, to allow unscrupulous third parties to manipulate humanity at scales that have never even been imagined before. And I think it's our responsibility to warn the public, to warn policymakers, and and really just help make sure that we can benefit from the power of these technologies, but not end up having it used against us.
And now, based on what you said, what do you think that are the most important actions we can take today in order to create that positive, sustainable future for humanity?
Yeah, so I mean, to me, the most urgent issues right now are really around artificial intelligence because the technology is moving so quickly, and because it has the potential to impact society at such a broad level. In the AI space, and one of the things that I do a lot of effort to educate policymakers about this, is that policymakers and standards bodies and civic organizations that act as watchdogs, they're concerned about AI, but they're still looking at AI as an amplifier of current threats. And so they're focused on deep fakes and the ability of AI to present fake information, fake news at massive scale. And those are real threats. But I really work hard to get them to realize that you're protecting the future based on today's world. You need to think one step further of what tomorrow's world looks like. Because in tomorrow's world, influence is not going to be pop-up ads and little videos that pop up that are maybe are fake. In tomorrow's world, very soon, we're going to get a lot of our information from conversational agents, from AIs that look human and sound human and interact with us very naturally. You'll go to websites and you'll be greeted by an avatar that looks perfectly human, and it's a virtual salesperson or a virtual representative that's going to be your search engine. And what we have to realize is in that world, which is just a few years away, the ability of a conversational agent to influence us is far greater than a pop-up ad that appears on our screens. And it's a problem that regulators don't really appreciate. And what I usually tell people is I say, look, any skilled salesperson who's really good at convincing somebody to buy something, they don't just hand you a brochure. They engage you in conversation. They ease you in with friendly dialogue. They make a subtle pitch. They read your reactions, and then they work to overcome any objections you have, and they can talk you into things. Well, in a few years, we're going to be bombarded with artificial agents that have these same capabilities, that are going to be interacting with us throughout the world of computing, and they're going to have the ability to read our emotions, to read our reactions, to pitch us, and then to work to overcome our objections. And if we don't put regulations in place, if we don't put policy in place or restrictions in place, we will be outmatched by these artificial systems that can essentially talk us into buying products we don't need or believing things that are just not true. Who are working on technologies that are, 5 years out, need to be educating policymakers to say, hey, it's great that you're addressing today's risks, but tomorrow's risks are really different. And they have a much bigger impact on the potential threats to human agency. AI is going to be used in ways that traditional advertising has never been used. We're going to be, in a few years, we're going to be talking about conversational advertising and the ability of artificial agents to talk us into things more skillfully than any salesperson. And you need to be thinking about regulating those technologies now.
I love your passion, and I believe that our audience can also sense it from the distance, because today you are cloned, basically. You are traveling as well, but you are with us live in our amazing first year anniversary at Tech Leadership Lab, and I cannot believe this. And because the human part is so important, and you are one of the rare humans who combine the passion and the technical minds and focused on AI with love for humanity and what we can build together to enjoy a better life. I would love a little bit of insights from the personal Luis. Who is Luis Rosenberg as a human? How would you describe yourself?
Yeah. So I am a technologist from, as a career, but I also very much enjoy the fictional side of things. And so I get involved a lot in writing science fiction and writing and publishing short stories and full graphic novels that really try to lay out what the future can look like if we're not bounded by real technological limitations, or what the future can look like if technologies go in certain directions as a way of educating the public.
Oh, and I know that, and I'm not sure if those are truly fictional stories or reality, because you truly grasp the future so well. I read a couple of them, as I stated before, and they just comprehend what's next. It's very cool to go back to your fictional story and just identify patterns and what is already happening today, and then question reality fiction, because today I think these two worlds start to blend more and more, right? And now just a little bit about swarm intelligence, because you've been a pioneer of swarm intelligence. This is where we collided our forces and we had our pilot, and we will continue with our global story, where our purpose is to find a common narrative that can collectively unite humanity around one purpose to create that kind of future we all want. And so you have the unanimous AI that centers around swarm intelligence, and your last product inside, the Thinkscape AI. But I would want to see, how do you envision this swarm AI collective intelligence evolving, and what impact do you think it could have on decision making at a global scale?
Unanimous AI is a really kind of unique type of artificial intelligence company in that, unlike the vast majority of AI research that's out there, building AI systems that process huge amounts of data as a way of replacing people in various tasks, we start from a different premise, and we say, how can we use AI to connect groups of people together, real people, and make them smarter? And the premise is really so different in that most AI systems, again, they're processing big data sets and finding insights in the huge data sets. And we started from the premise of, hey, people are really smart. People have vast amounts of knowledge and wisdom and insight and intuition, and it exists in a database in their heads, right? The amount of information that's in every person's head is actually remarkable. It's more than all of the movies stored on Netflix in every single brain. And so our premise as the company Unanimous AI is to say, how can we use AI to connect that human database together and enable human groups to make better decisions, predictions, forecasts, and solve hard problems, and do it in ways that can allow groups to find the solutions that are best for for society as a whole. And like a lot of technologists who are trying to solve problems, over a decade ago, I looked to Mother Nature and said, well, how does nature solve this problem of getting the most out of large groups? And it turns out that evolution has looked at this problem many times across hundreds of millions of years, and biologists call this swarm intelligence. And so swarm intelligence is the reason why birds flock and fish school and bees swarm. They are smarter together than alone. They can solve really hard problems collectively in real time, nobody being in charge, and do it quickly and do it for the best interest of the whole population. And so we founded Unanimous saying, hey, look, can we take the methods and algorithms that we can learn from fish schools and from bee swarms and connect groups of people together, and will it allow groups to get smarter, and will it allow groups to get wiser? And over the last decade, we've published lots and lots of studies with major universities that show, yes, we can connect groups together in real time. We can use methods derived from Mother Nature, and it makes groups significantly smarter. They can make significantly more accurate forecasts, significantly better decisions, significantly better prioritizations. And it also makes groups wiser, especially on very divisive issues where the public is divided, and they will converge on solutions that maximize common ground. But we know the technology is scalable, and we expect that we'll be able to enable groups of thousands of people at a time, even millions of people at a time, could potentially hold large-scale deliberative conversations and amplify our collective intelligence and amplify our collective wisdom. And that's really what we as a company are headed towards.
I can only imagine what kind of revelations we will have when we'll have those huge groups around the global story next year, and we will start to see those patterns that keep us connected as one species. All right. I believe that now our audience and those who don't know you had a little bit of revelation about who is Luis and why he might deserve such a huge honorary distinction. And the Earth CEO distinction that is in premiere at our first event is a symbol of leadership that goes beyond today's challenges, looking toward the future where our actions today create that kind of better world for the generations to come, and we always have them on our minds. So with that said, in recognition to your extraordinary contributions to ethical leadership and everything that you've built through these decades of your life, and your commitment to long-term well-being of future generations in synergy with planet Earth, and also from your technical side and perspective, it's my honor to present you with the Earth CEO distinction.
Thank you. I really appreciate the honor and all the kind words.
Congratulations, Luis, and thank you for your tireless efforts to lead with integrity and vision.
All right.
Joaquin, is there something that you planned? I mean, you are a Swarm community and Luis is with Swarm Intelligence. Thank you,
Yeah.
Cameron, from the audience for pointing out the Wikipedia about Swarm Intelligence.
Yeah, I just want to say I'm not at all affiliated with Luis, but I think we're in the same line of thinking. We all, as individual people, have our localized census and understanding of the world. We are sharing the same canvas of the world. But it's only in being able to unite our intentions together that we're able to manage and leverage our collective intelligence and wisdom to improve society. I mean, yeah, you have ants, you have fish, you have birds. All these animals have evolved to rely on the social structure, on the social mechanism that allows the young to learn from the old, and the ones that have the most energy to go and seek food or be the soldiers. And it's only through the development of a organized, orchestrated group of organisms that we can really maximize our efforts. So
Should
yeah.
we add a poll right now? What do you think? Because I'm not sure how it works. Maybe people would be interested to know.
Yes, I posted a poll earlier. What do you think is the most
So people need to go outside to the reception area, just for those who don't understand the platform a little bit.
they should receive a notification on the top right of their profile, and they can just click to vote for the polls. But we put how well do you think the general public is informed about the SDGs? And most of the people, more than 50%, said minimally informed. We'll put another poll out right now, and we'll see what people have to say.
Okay. So this is interactive, and you see everything is live. We want you to join and be like humans at the table with coffee. I have my own coffee. Everyone who knows me knows that I drink coffee all day long and all night and all the time, and I'm okay as a biohacker. And I truly want to know my community, and our community at Tech Leadership Lab. We are all about creating long-lasting relationships, because if we are going on a journey to solve all the SDGs in time and be good ancestors, then we truly need to nurture those relationships. You cannot go with someone you don't know or you don't like, and this type of relationships, like what we are doing now, Joaquin, based on the events, and from now on, it is nurturing of relationship and with partners and with people like Luis and the Swarm Intelligence platform that they are doing, and we will use that for our common story, global story, that will be the main project for next year. All right.
Yeah, I just want to add, AI is only the latest breakthrough or developments in innovation. We have quantum coming as well. There's just so much technology that has a disproportionate impact on what we can do, what we can achieve, the problems that we can solve. But it just gives me goosebumps to think about not being able to have all these conversations at all levels of society, policymakers, public, private institutions, individuals, everybody needs to be informed about the opportunities and risks that are involved with artificial intelligence technologies, and we need to be able to walk into the darkness together, holding hands in this collective swarm, so that we can navigate this space. Because will people use or misuse technology? That's happened throughout all of time, from the time of we learned to use and fashion stone tools, to the time that we leverage the steam engine, to the time that we are using now computers for sending information. We've always used and misused technology. The difference is, the more advanced the technology, the greater the potential consequences that can unfold. So I think, with that being said,
We go next to our next speaker, and I'm super thrilled to introduce someone who is doing the work in the tech industry for over 3 decades. David Layton, the president and CEO of VITI, Workforce, Innovation, Trust, and Influence. This was a rebrand, and that's never easy. And he was instrumental in creating opportunities through these decades for diverse voices and technology, and advocating for inclusion, especially women, because it was a full focus of VITI on women empowerment and leadership, leading the charge in ethical leadership. And under his supervision and visionary leadership, VITI grew into a global organization today that empowers professionals at the intersection of technology and human impact. So David's influence extends VITI, and I'm now part of that community as well, because we, the communities of creating the future, we need to mingle and unite and collaborate for the benefit of humanity. So we are building meaningful relationships together. We already started and driving impactful initiatives across industries. And David is a perfect person to talk about this, because he's a true advocate for collaboration, and he's bridging the gap between technology and humanity, aligning perfectly the Earth CEO concept. And that's why he is with us, and he will have a keynote about innovating for global impact and empowering leadership to unite and elevate. Welcome, David.
We're going to play the video introduction, and we'll get the show on the road.
Hey, Cristina, thank you for all of that, and for just a great event so far in the last year. It's like you did 10 years in the last year, I feel.
Me too. Yes, it's also surprising, but I cannot believe that. But also, so many things happened indeed. And I'm so happy to have you here. And the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I will share. Oh, I did not upload my slides. So let me just pull them down. And
okay, so if you have slides, then I will be the cheerleader here and encourage everyone to write.
Yeah, either way, I have slides prepared. We could have a conversation too, Cristina, because a lot came just listening to you, and then Tammy and Lewis. Things kept, coming up for me, including when we started Witty back when I first started working in tech in the 80s, and then we started, Witty in 89. Really just, we felt like there was communication breakdowns amongst people. HP Labs was one of our first clients. We worked with them in the 80s, and they were always known for looking at technology 10 years out. And you'd walk through their offices in the Silicon Valley. You'd smell the coffee. At that time, there's probably like a cigarette smell too. That's how long ago it was. but they'd have these focus groups where they'd bring in all types of people, different genders, different professions, lawyers, doctors, construction workers, retail people, right? Black, white, men, woman, to look at how would they envision using technology in the future, what was possible, really get them thinking outside the box. And that's what led to the founding of Witty. I'd been working with my mom on her company Criterion Research. I was very young at the time, and now I used to be the youngest, now I'm the oldest in these groups. But we would help companies identify people to connect with and build their teams and research technology. There was no website or Google or anything back then. And then as she experienced this with Hewlett Packard, and there was just all this information that was coming out about how women were stuck in lower level positions, and we weren't really leveraging that talent, that's where Witty was started. So we started in 89, had our first conference in 95. There was no Eventbrite or online registration, so we didn't know if we'd get 100 people coming to the conference. Everybody said, oh, you'll probably get a few hundred people. Then when like 2,500 people showed up, it was like, oh, we hit something. And really what we talk about at Witty, and really the vibe and the soul of Witty, is that no one stands alone, and that we're all in it together, and that if we could all be as individuals and have the power, and I think a lot of it's with our corporate partners and just companies out there, to give their people space to be authentic and be themselves, we're going to have more innovation, and we'll have more just happier people that are solving big problems and more innovation. So it was great when you and I connected, Cristina, because I just saw us aligning.
And I can see so many directions we can go from now on, because our collaboration and partnership just started, and we will have more chances to discuss this afterwards. Yes. What I loved so much is that you brought humanity inside the workspace. You and your mother focused on the workspace, but you saw this kind of gap and the chaos inside that people don't connect at the human level. You have very simple messages. You don't overcomplicate things. Hey, we have this thing called work. We hustle through our most active years, but we do it in such a robotic way. By the way, AI now and robots, and we don't need to compete with them, over the contrary. And you had that you felt that disconnect, especially in the Silicon Valley culture, where everyone is hustling and focusing on the aspect to grow. And now we see with sustainability that we need to shift and change our mindset and cultivate another mindset where it's not about just grow, but connection. And this is all about, because you can be the happiest or the even better, the wealthiest person on earth money-wise, but to be the unhappiest. So they don't mutually exclude or include each other, but we need to consider that. So why did you focus on that? What was your revelation that our communication and connection is just not where it should be?
Well, really, I saw, and I think through, as I worked with Philippe Kahn and Bill Borland in the early 90s and 80s, and Witty was growing simultaneously. And then I had an opportunity to work with Mark Benny.
You also need to know who they are, because this is a global community and some people might not know where to identify those names.
Sure. Yeah, Philippe was built one of the early PC software companies and a lot of tools. And I always mention, my friends always like to tease me because now I'm so old, no one knows what Borland is, but they were the Innovators and the number 2 software company, and always known for the best people. And when I was going around the world, finding people for them, no one cared what color they were or gender or anything else. And after that, and he also then went on to create the camera phone. So I'm sure everybody can relate to that. And then Mark Benioff, I had an opportunity to work with him in the mid 90s when he was still at Oracle, and he now later went on to found Salesforce. There's just so I just it's really about putting people on teams working together that align. And I think men, women, people from different backgrounds working together, the more you can get this diversity of thought, the more innovation there will be. And what I saw, and we've all seen, at least here in the States, diversity, equity, and inclusion, or the DEI department's getting a lot of backlash. And I think companies do want diversity and inclusion that for innovation and for company growth. I think that some of the approach in the past that we saw was it more just focusing on, oh wow, Peggy, nice. Was more, and Gene, yeah, I haven't touched Gene for a while. More focusing on, compliance and specific numbers rather than how do we lead with innovation, right? So our mission now is just to, and we had to look, so one of the journeys we've been going on is there was something that came out in the mid 90s. It was the federal glass ceiling report under President Clinton. They wanted to look at if we're not leveraging all of our talent, with only 4 to 5% of women and underrepresented people getting into management, how can we compete globally? I had come in, I'd always helped with Witty and worked with my mom at different growths, and I had other companies, as you showed during the video. But I came back, full time as she kind of moved it. She didn't retire. I don't know if she'll ever retire. She now does what she did for Witty, but with dogs. So that's her special thing she does now.
Yeah, true entrepreneurs never retire. I don't know what concept that is. I cannot see myself as. Right.
Yeah, I'm convinced that's like a financial industry word to get our money somehow. But so we so really it was so after we did the first glass ceiling report, or worked with the glass ceiling commission to move that out, as we moved forward, and I was redesigning what Witty was, then the pandemic happened. Shortly after the pandemic, we worked with our partner Intel to update the federal glass ceiling report. Everybody's feel free to download that on our website, and it really had us look at things differently. Now with the shutdown, all these tools, Cristina, you're in Romania, I'm in Arroyo Grande, and I'm right down the street from Lewis, which is kind of cool too, right? How the world is so small, and now we can just transform how we're all working together. You might have things going on in your life where you want to work, where you work certain times. I do too. Right? 9 to 5, let's cram all the humans and have them work the same amount of time. I just think it's unrealistic in the new future of work. And again, how am I going to get the best out of my people if I'm forcing them? And in many cases, through a lot of these industries, the whole corporate structure was created by how men work and compete because they were the ones that created it. And now let me put women in there and have them work like that. Well, if we do that, we're going to get maybe 60 to 70% max of what they can contribute. And I think that's just really the bigger conversation. And so, as you see here, my Powered by Witty logo, and Intel has always been a partner. And I always saw the Intel Inside logo on different computers, right? And things like that. It's like, okay, all these communities that are doing amazing work, let's just have them give them applications to build on. That's not just a SaaS software product, but also comes with other, with content that we can leverage together. So all the Witty members can learn more about the SDGs through Tech Leadership Lab, and we can partner with different communities around the world. So
is the only way, and I can encourage everyone to be part of the video as well. And you have membership as well, And if you are from TLL, so you just use the code TLL and you will have 20% off.
Yes.
So this is part of our partnership. But I was already inside multiple working groups, and I can tell you that you can open up any kind of sensitive discussion. This was the test. If you recall, David, the first time I joined one of the groups, the daily coffee chats, and there were just men and I was the only female, but I opened up and I even encouraged to have discussions about, okay, how do you feel now in this room that I am here, the only female? Does this change the atmosphere inside the room, and in what way? And we need to be open to have such discussions, because everything you touched today, it's exactly spot on. How is it possible that today the sustainability movement, if you're thinking about those who are open for it, the first ones are females and women, and they are the ones who encourage to take the initiatives inside companies, but they are not leading the charge. They are not in the top functions many times, but they are open to this shift. And men are those who cut down multiple projects in sustainability, just because they do have this kind of old perspective about work and profits and growth, while women come with a different perspective about community connection, saving the planet, creating good for everyone. So if this is led more by women who are open because of what their inner, let's say, uniqueness is, why not put them in charge of this new wave where we can solve the SDGs sooner? Not only that we don't do that, but we are much under the 50% as it should be. But it's very good you can have these conversations. What do you think about this?
No, look, I think it's using it as the way of being for the companies, right? For our corporate partners, it's like, we won't work with companies if they just are trying to check a box, or if they don't have a plan to really make sure that the different types of people that they're bringing in add to the growth and execution of the vision of the company. I mean, that's what it's all about, right? Some of the things, I think a lot of, you might see a lot of different women in groups out there that are nonprofit, that are asking companies to donate to them. It's like, we got to stop socializing this as some type of charity. Same thing with the earth, right? We're not going to be able to work, right? So are there philanthropic initiatives where they shouldn't get taxed? Absolutely. Should this be looked as a good business decision? How do we get companies to leverage this? I'm going to buy gas from this gas station because I've seen all the stuff they're doing to help the planet, rather than this one, or this restaurant, or this clothing line, whatever it is. I think we need to shift it. So ESG is a business opportunity. It's a marketing opportunity. And yes, let's get people that align with that can take on these initiatives, but stop stuffing them into some corporate social responsibility group where they're just, a lot of times it's lip service, where they're just doing their best not to get fined, right? You've heard of greenwashing, all this other stuff. I think the humans today, especially as we help magnify this conversation, are going to want to do business, going to want to work for companies where they align with their purpose and values. So I think, that's where I think the big opportunity is, and where we're certainly taking anything we do. Companies seem to have trouble finding the people. That's because they don't, there's a lot of broken systems that they have. We'll say that, right?
Yes, and big shifts have to happen. I'm curious, what are you saying? Because ESG and DEI were put together in a basket, and during what happened in the markets during the last year, they just cut out the cost. And this happened for multiple reasons, but it's absolutely insane. What do you think about this kind of bucket, putting things together and incentivizing other things, and going back in time where, the other things matter more than our future?
It's not seeing as a business opportunity. It's seeing as, let's check a box or comply, when in fact it is a great opportunity to acquire the best talent, to get the right customers, to build loyalty for customers and employees to those companies. And seeing now what's going on with people that might be getting laid off or divisions are getting cut, and then they're applying for jobs and they're not getting responded to. It's not them, it's the broken systems at these companies, right? And since I have been doing this work since the 80s from a headhunting recruitment standpoint, it's like I just see everything's been broken every decade. Now with AI, it's like just expedited everything, and the companies are just confused. That's why with our witty community and everybody that is looking, I met a couple people that are looking, come to my coaching circle on Fridays. Everybody's invited as my guest. It's up to us now to figure out where we want to go, find a company that aligns with us, and get to the person that needs you, that you can contribute to. And if you think putting a resume in or putting in an ATS system where it looks like a Black Friday sale, the minute they put up the job posting, it's just broken systems that don't work. And we have so much compassion. And this is how we leverage the communities to make sure all of our people go where they want to go, can be fully self-expressed in doing their role. So then they win, and then the company wins. It doesn't have to be a zero-sum game.
Yes, and I appreciate so much what you're doing with your community. You have so many events, and you're always there for those events, and someone who organizes them. And we understand, Joaquin and I, for sure, it is very lengthy. It is stressful. You always need to be on. And you are doing this for so many years. So I want to understand your driver now from a human perspective. What drives you? What motivates you to continue to do exactly what you're saying?
Yeah, look, I'm committed to a world that works for everybody, where they can be fully self-expressed and in their zones. That's where they're happy, and that's where we'll solve these problems naturally. Yeah, it's I've had a long journey. I started working, dropped out of college when I was 19 when I met Philippe, and then started working in that space. My brother had Crohn's disease, so he had a chronic illness. So I saw how he had to deal with things, and we were lucky to have support systems around him. People don't have that in a lot of cases. I want to solve every problem, Cristina, just like you, but there's only enough hours of the day. But if we do build our platform and ecosystem, then we could, partner with people like what Tammy's doing and what Lewis is doing and Joaquin. So now we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can bring the like-minded people together, and then we can grow.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's the only way. And I would love to ask you here, very important, because I value having decades of expertise and connecting and creating communities. I mean, you are in 6 figures community. That's huge. And you are connected with with huge corporations. You are connected with startups. You advocated for women leadership for so long, but you are well connected in all of the environments, including where the money is in Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
So do you see a common theme right now around the leaders, that they just get something, that we need to do something differently? It is a new wave in the making, something that we should know and maybe be hopeful about?
Well, I think many of them don't know what's possible. So we have to educate them now on what is possible. I do see a lot of these compliance-driven programs just being defunded and shut down. Good. Those should be. Let's transform. And that's, again, with Glass Ceiling Report 2.0, how we've kind of informed a lot of the stuff we're doing. And we have the data now to back that. We always included and welcomed men into Witty. It didn't occur to me that men felt they weren't welcome. And then, back in 89, you were one of two things, right? Going forward, there's different, ways people identify, which is great. Like we have a code of ethics that's very clear, collaboration, not competition, focus on that. No one stands alone. They're all on our website. This is the power that, again, having just these separate departments as social causes. I really feel like once companies get that and we can help them shift to align with their business initiatives, then this will be an imperative for them, not like a painful thing they want to cut because they're cutting budget. So anyway, we're just at the beginning of a lot of this. I'm excited. And then changing the name too to Workforce Innovation, Trust and Influence. We still have kind of the women community. We currently have one women's only leadership kind of confidential container every Friday morning Pacific time people can participate in. We have a men only group on Saturdays. We have groups that everybody's welcome to. You've been to many of them, Cristina. And we're just having Witty Hong Kong relaunch. And you met Jerry Riskin, we're doing kind of training of facilitators. So then I won't feel like I have to be at every meeting. There's a couple now I don't go to, but I want to make sure that our people are taken care of and everybody's acknowledged and
And you pinpointed something very important that I always love to say, especially as a remote expert for 15 years or so. And what I've noticed that one of the skill sets, especially in a remote work, is over communication. Because otherwise you don't have that kind of face-to-face and being in the same office, but you can overcome this. And you just presume based on your own biases that people know, like with men, they just didn't feel welcome, but they also need to be part of the discussions.
Yeah.
And so, it was just one of those things you presume it's fine. Everyone is clear about that. The same as what I mentioned inside the group. I always love to open up when I have the platform, controversial topics. And I do that on LinkedIn, and I do this in group meetings where I feel that, okay, people can take it, because if we cannot take it, if we cannot have those conversations, we won't solve anything. And so that's why I appreciate everything you're doing. And right now, through our connections, I hope that we will create much more impact in our second year with TLR and with Vidi's help as well. So those who want to join your community, just go ahead and do so. Use the TLR code at the end if you want to subscribe. And with that being said, your visionary leadership always inspired, not just at first empowering women, but then professionals from the tech industry and fostering innovation, what you did, inclusion and growth. So your commitment to create a supportive, inclusive work environment for everyone included and elevate our spirit of one kind and one species, it's so aligned with your CEO, and you've helped to shape a future the way I see it. Not to mention that you are a good human, and we can just sense that while listening to you. In recognition of your extraordinary contribution to sustainability, ethical leadership, and your commitment to be here for the long-term well-being of the future generations and synergy with the planet Earth, it's my honor to present you with the Earth CEO distinction. And maybe we can put this also on stage to see your distinction for the first time. If Joaquin will help us. And here it is.
Thank you so much, Cristina. I appreciate this. And look, and I think that, first of all, it's an honor. I appreciate it. And one of the things too, right? This is about when we have been started out Women in Technology International. We always included men, and they're part. Every human is part of this conversation, right? And one thing I don't like what's been going on in the space of DEI, where they're trying to find a bad guy. Bad guys are bad guys and girls, right? And they come in all different colors and genders and everything else. Let's raise everybody so we can all be part of the solution, not the problem. So that'll be my last statement. And thank you so much, Cristina. Amazing. You know, I can talk to you for hours, so I'm here as long as you need me.
Yes, and we will do those hours very, very soon. Thank you so much, David Layton. And with that being said, Joaquin, what do you think? Where are we? How is the event going on? What's your impression?
Yeah, no, I'm just at the very tip of the iceberg in David's journey. You've been doing this for 3 decades, and I'm just starting out with my own community. So, you know, I'd love to learn more about some of the things that you've done and learned, and some of the shortcuts. But again, I think that could be an entire lecture series in itself.
Listen, you can learn from my pain, Joaquin. If you want to get your own pain, no problem. But I'd like to have you not run into I've made every mistake in the book and learned things and have some knowledge now. So
perfect. Yeah. Do we have any new poll on the making? What do you think?
Yeah, I'll post another one.
Or if you have the results for the previous poll, because that's also interesting for some of the people who cannot navigate between different screens.
Yeah, for the last one, which leadership style do you believe is the most effective in driving ethical and sustainable change? We had collaborative leadership being the most important. So, yeah, I'm going to post the next one, and we'll see what the crowd has to say.
All right. And now between you and I, and we will let David in the audience, and please just continue to comment, everyone, because we are here to connect it with each other and create more impact. And we are doing that in the backstage. So for some of you, DLL looks like an event organizer. No, events are just in the open to showcase and attract the right community. But the big things and the deals and the projects and what we are building here, they are happening in the backstage. And so you need to be united for that. Joaquin, do you have something to add here we should discuss before moving on?
No, I'm actually very excited to jump into the introduction of our next speaker. And I think, you know,
I can say a couple of words because, yeah, I just love our next speaker. She's one of the hustlers. I consider her almost like, I didn't tell that, but she's like my sister from another mother. She is hustling, but for so long, for showing the stats and the facts about what is going on with climate, and then also with energy and what we can do together. She's a true leader at the intersection of science, climate, and global impact. Dr. Roberta Boscolo was at one of our events, and it was the most popular figure until now. She's a climate and policy expert at the World Meteorological Organization, and she dedicated her life to advance climate science and helping industries, governments with projects and organizations worldwide, because she's traveling all the time, making informed decisions about climate risk. And her work is, it can be translated in a complex scientific data into actionable strategies that make her voice so critical. And I so much appreciate her work, because I know this is a sacrifice work, because people like her are doing so much for us to be informed. And she truly embodies everything about our CEO. She won't be too much with us today, and that's why her video presentation, maybe it's a little bit longer, just because we have her in the middle of very important projects. So yeah, we can start with that.
Since my childhood, these episodes of high tide become more severe and more frequent, and this is because of, predominantly because of global warming. Science tells us that if the global warming will continue at the same rate as today, at the end of the century, we will have the sea level rise more like half a meter or 1 meter higher than today. And this is the side of little Roberta, or even higher. And that means that Chioggia will disappear. So my hometown, the place where I grew up, the place where I have my memories and I still call home, will disappear.
Three messages is first, the global warming is happening and accelerating. Each of the bar represent an increment of temperature with respect to a reference temperature that is the average between 1859 and 900. And we consider it as the temperature of the pre-industrial era. We know that we, the humanity, are the cause of this warming. Is our human activity, the increase of greenhouse gases emission that trap the heat in the Earth system and make the global warming increase of the temperature. And this is due to burning of fossil fuel, deforestation, land use, agriculture practices, waste management, and many more. And the third message is really the future depends on our action of today. And it depends on us. Here we have 5 scenarios, which depends on the emission of our ambition targets in the future. Very low emissions means that we are able to stabilize the increase of temperature, or the very high emission scenarios where most probably our planet, a lot of part in our planet won't be actually habitable. And this is also, it shows also that the climate change is a global and intergenerational problem. A newborn today, someone who is not responsible for the greenhouse gas emissions of the past is going to experience more heat and more climate change impacts in the future, in his or her life, rather than somebody who was born in the 50s or in the 80s.
We spend every year $7 trillion in fossil fuel subsidies, while we need only $4.5 trillion to transform our energy from dirty to clean. Renewable energy also is good for our health because it lowers the air pollution, which is actually the cause of the death of 9 million people every year.
This decade is a critical decade. The action has to be now. Climate is actually affecting everybody. Renewable energy is booming, and eventually it is a process that will displace fossil fuel.
And above all, we should vote for leaders and for policy that support the energy transition, because we need to elect leaders that actually nurture these seeds of change.
I am so happy to have you back with us, Roberta. You're absolutely wonderful, and I created this clip just because it's so good for educational purposes. First of all, climate is real, it's here, it's science-backed, and then that we need to focus on the right type of leadership. So welcome today with us.
Thank you, Cristina. Thank you, everybody. Can you hear me well? Yes?
Yes, perfect.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
And because you don't have so much time, but I appreciate that you're here with us live, I would love to ask you that based on your experience and groundbreaking work in climate and energy, is there one critical action or mindset shift that our global community needs to embrace to make our sustainable goals a reality? And what would that be?
Yeah, thank you, Cristina, and thank you, distinguished colleagues here, connected today. Yeah, in my years of experience and working in climate science and energy, I have witnessed firsthand the remarkable potential humanity has to confront its greatest challenges. And if there is one critical action or mindset shift that we need to embrace globally to make our sustainable goals a reality is that we must prioritize a system-level transformation driven by collaboration that decarbonize our economy and restores the health of our planet. There is a scientific conclusion is today is univocal and clear. You know, our on a global transformation at a record pace can direct the world away from unacceptable global environmental impacts on people across the world and potentially unimaginable condition for current and future generation on Earth. And this transformation really requires us to move beyond incremental changes and embrace bold, scalable solutions across sector, energy, agriculture, transportation, industry. It's not enough just to focus on isolated technology or policy. We really need to integrate approach that address the root cause of carbon emission and the environmental degradation. And this means rethink how we produce energy, use the resources and the value of nature in our economic system. We must also recognize that no single country or sector can do this alone. I mean, collaboration across border industry and communities is very important, is the key factor. And the climate crisis does not respect boundaries, and our solution must also be equally global. So the mindset shift requires is one that embraces collective responsibility, innovation, and equity, ensuring that no one is left behind in this transition. And this is really important, in my opinion, because it is a social aspect as well as a scientific and physical aspect. And given the pace and scale of change requires, the only way of succeeding is to ensure that the sustainable offer is more attractive than in terms of prosperity and equity. The data show that this is possible. Green solutions are not only good for the planet, but they are increasingly competitive and even without subsidies. And more technologically advanced and thus modern and attractive and have a well-established benefit from health, security, and social stability. And this is a very critical decade for climate action. Our ability to transform will depend on our willingness to act now in very decisive and inclusively way. We have the science, we have the technology and the resources. And what we need is unwavering commitment. And together we can make sustainability not just a goal, but a reality for all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And if I may, just a little bit of more personal question, because we touch base the personality of people like you. What drives you to do so much work and sacrifices, sacrificing your time and your personal life and everything, like so many people in your shoes are doing? What drives you?
Well, really what drives me is the responsibility as a scientist that I see this data, I see where we are heading, I see what is happening, and also the frustration that many people doesn't know about it, or scientists in general are not very able to tell the data, tell the story about the data that we see, and really touch the heart, touch the heart and the brain of the people. So I think I felt that I had, as a scientist, I had this responsibility to start to communicate better the scientific aspect. Of course, climate change is very complex. It's a complex problem, but we can do it little by little and show little by little the data and simplify the message and try to really reach as many people as possible. Because as I said, the data are clear, and it is alarming what we see, but many people are not even able to understand, or they don't get this information. So this is what is really driving me, because as I said, scientists tend to talk among scientists, and we all agree. I mean, all the people that I know agree about what is happening, and we know, but it's to reach out to the people that doesn't know, because they have no, say, exposure to the evidence as we are.
And I know for sure that I learned so many things from you during the last year when I focused more to understand climate and where we are. And your work is so precious around how to create a more sustainable and resilient future. So turning science to actionable climate strategies and just giving the data to humanity to show where we are and what we can do, it's absolutely priceless. And so in recognition of your extraordinary contribution to sustainability, ethical leadership, and your commitment to the long-term well-being of future generations, I think you are a perfect example, and I'm so honored to present you with the Earth CEO distinction.
Thank you very much, Cristina. Thank you very much to your community. I'm really honored to get this distinction, and I will immediately post on LinkedIn about it. And I'm really grateful for this recognition. Thank you.
And you will receive it legitimately with the unique code of this inside your email. And so you can post it directly on your profile, because it is part of your legacy and what you will do from now on. And we are so happy to have you inside our ecosystem. Thank you so much for everything you do.
Thank you.
And with that being said, Joaquin, moving on to the next level. And next stage, what do you think? What did you notice? What happened inside the reception area, maybe, or messages you received in private?
Well, I just want to say, Roberta, thank you very much. Thank you very much for taking the time to be here live. And we know your schedule is very busy. So just thank you for your participation. We are waiting on confirmation from Anjan. So we shall see in the next few minutes.
Yeah, I hope we won't have, that would be a premiere for our lives. But yes, everything is perfect. And until then, do we have any kind of new data about the pause or something that we should know?
Yes. I'm just kind of like an octopus juggling a few things. Let me see. So the latest poll is, we asked, what is the top priority SDG to pursue today? And I think for 42% of the people, climate action is a top priority, top of mind. I think with Anjan joining us in the backstage, maybe we can give a few words of introduction. And
for sure, yes, I'm ready for that, because we have a new speaker, an extraordinary person, Anjan Sundaram, and I hope I pronounced that well, a renowned journalist and author whose work has taken him to some of the most challenging parts of the world, putting himself and his life in danger for so long and for so many times. He has a unique ability to tell the untold stories of conflict zones and war and political unrest, and shedding light on issues that are often unseen and overlooked by mainstream media. And so he took his responsibility as a journalist to show those stories that are usually not seen and not known. And he does that as a first person on the ground. And this commitment to truth and ethical storytelling resonates so much with the Earth CEO concept and with TLL in general. So today, Anjan will speak with us in an exclusive interview about power of journalism that inspires change and the importance of integrity in leadership. So please welcome the intro for Anjan.
I traveled to the Central African Republic to report on its ongoing war. I'd heard warnings of massacres in the country's jungles and deserts. But no one could locate these massacres, or tell me who was killed, or when. I do this work because I feel that ignored people in all our communities tell us something important about who we are. When information is missing, people have the power to manipulate reality. The cartels, by some estimates Mexico's 5th largest employer, recruit young, poor men, arm them, and have them run illegal businesses in remote places that are dangerous for journalists. Scores of reporters have been killed in Mexico, many of whom investigated illegality and corruption.
Welcome, Anjan.
Thank you, Cristina. Thank you, Joaquin. Appreciate it. Thank you for the kind introduction, and it's a pleasure and honor to be here.
It's not easy to be in your shoes, and I'm also honored to understand the depth of living such a life of sacrifice and hardships, because you need to be skilled and also have a lot of courage and determination to witness human rights violations, war crimes, or political oppression firsthand. That is not for anyone. And I'm super curious, and we'll start with the first question to you to profit with from your valuable time. Oh my God. And how do you maintain, for example, hope and resilience in the face of such adversity? And what role do you believe ethical leadership plays in addressing these global challenges?
Sure. Thank you, Cristina. I mean, thank you for all the kind words, but honestly, for myself, it's a real honor and privilege to be serving the people that I report on and write about. And they're, from the outside, it might seem like my work is risky. It's it requires courage, and it does to a certain degree. Compared to life in the city. But compared to the people I'm reporting on who are living in conflict zones, who are facing threats every day, who are at risk of being killed for their very noble work, for defending ecosystems, for defending society, the risks that I take are quite small. I see them as quite small in that way. I mean, I go into these places for a week, a month. I go on the front line of a war for a few hours, but the people I'm reporting on are living there. So they actually inspire me. And it's not they actually give me hope, because in the places that I work in are some of the most bleakest and hopeless places. From the outside, it can seem that way. But inside these places, you find such inspirational, heroic figures. And I see my job is to elevate their work, because often they're fighting in obscurity. Nobody really knows their work. Nobody knows what they're doing. And my job as a reporter is, one, to stay alive, and two, to go in there, witness their work, and tell their stories to the world. And so, that work itself is very meaningful and gives me a lot of inspiration and hope.
And we are happy that you keep yourself alive and you can report back to us, because it's super important to have this transparency from the ground. And I wonder, how can global leaders, particularly in today's polarized world, ensure that marginalized communities are heard and protected?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, a lot of these marginal stories don't make it to the mainstream discourse because they threaten global power centers. And so, part of my work, I feel, is to get the perspectives of these communities, the people that I'm reporting on, into the mainstream discourse at places like TED or the New York Times or wherever it is. Part of it is to get their message, their perspective, for two reasons. One is to help them influence the policy debates, the global leadership debates. They need to be heard. And the second is to just raise their profile so it's more inconvenient to kill them. But it's complicated, because I think the the ecosystem of global leadership needs to listen to these voices, and they don't, because they threaten economic or political or social interests often. We're on a path where, to the theme of this event, we're on a path where we're destroying the last ecosystems in the world. Only 5% of the world's population is indigenous, but they are now protecting 80% of the biodiversity in the world. So we've destroyed our biodiversity everywhere else, and now these small communities are now protecting 80% of what we have left. And the status quo cannot continue, and global leadership needs to understand this. We cannot continue in the same way that we've been going for many decades and centuries. We need to change our course. And how do we change our course? We need to start paying attention to these communities that are defending our ecosystems and learn from them how we can protect our biodiversity. Because very clearly, we don't seem to have the interest or the knowledge to be able to do so.
Yeah, and you traveled in all of those places where the rule of law had collapsed, obviously, and governance is non-existent. So what are the lessons that can we take from these experiences when thinking about how to build a stronger and more resilient society for what we need right now to solve the SDGs and societies that protect both people but also the planet?
It's a great question. In the places that I'm traveling where these ecosystems are a danger, the threat is coming from a consortium of three forces. You have the government, the national government, local government, you have multinational companies, and you have organized crime, cartels. All three entities, cartels, companies, and the governments, they're working together for their economic interests, for their political interests, to fight against these communities and destroy the ecosystems. So that needs to change. We need to, in terms of global priorities, the threats are coming from people and entities and companies that are based in the West, based in the global North. They're listed on the global North stock exchanges, and yet they're complicit or partnering with people complicit in crimes on the margins of the world, where they act with impunity because there aren't so many journalists. And this is why I report from these places. I put myself there because these are, on the margins of the world where there's very little press attention. Battles and wars of global importance are being fought, and somebody needs to shine a light on it. And so, yes, I think the business community, especially the profit incentive, the need for constant growth at the expense of the world's ecosystems, that needs to shift. And right now, it's the economic growth models are just they're ravaging ecosystems. There's very little concern for the biodiversity that's left, relatively little biodiversity that's left in the world. And so, there are a lot of conversations. There's going to be the Climate Week in New York this month, the end of the month. There are all these conversations that seem to be happening with, big companies, governments, everybody coming together, seemingly to discuss how to protect biodiversity and ecosystems. But really, on the ground, when you look at the individual companies, they're engaging in very, very questionable behavior and partnering with partners whom they know are destroying communities, destroying the ecosystems, and for what? For profit. That needs to change.
And I will focus a little bit more on this topic because you are a storyteller, a good one, and your TED Talks just talk by themselves. You have the power to influence hearts and minds, and leaders need to have this kind of power, especially those who are in front center. What do you believe is the most critical story that the world needs to hear right now, and about sustainability, leadership, or global justice? And this is also related to what leaders need to hear, that if they are on top of things and people can listen to them, what they should consider.
That's a great question again. I can tell you the story that drew me. A few years ago, I was trying to understand where the world is heading. Where are we heading as a society? How are we going to protect or care for our ecosystems? What is the model of economic growth? And for future generations, what is our idea? Because I don't see any sustainable future. I feel like we're destroying more and more the Amazon and the big ecosystems that matter. And what I was drawn to were the small indigenous communities that have, for centuries, been protecting successfully their biodiversity. So I thought to myself, maybe we can learn from them, and maybe I can learn from them how we think about our future. And unfortunately, this is not a very common perspective. Whenever I talk to leaders in Mexico and Latin America, or even in the West, often when I talk to leaders about the indigenous communities, they see them as primitive in the past, rooted in traditions. Oh, they're so exotic, they're so special, they're so cute. They need hospitals, they need schools, they need development so they can become like us. No, I think actually maybe we need to listen to them so we can become a little more like them, and we can protect our biodiversity a little bit more. Because otherwise, without our ecosystems, we're all going to, our civilization as we know it cannot sustain itself. So I think that perspective needs to change. That's a very simple perspective, but these communities, to stop seeing them as primitive, as traditional, but see them, ask them for advice and how we build our future. And I think that small shift, bringing them to the table, giving them a voice, listening to them carefully, implementing their suggestions, not seeing it as some sort of like mystical tradition. They might talk about Madre Tierra and things like that, but to see how and implement their knowledge and wisdom, I think can help us all collectively. And so, yeah, I moved to Mexico because I read about 3 years ago that 54 environmental defenders had been killed here. It was the deadliest country in the world at the time for land defenders, and now it's between Mexico, Colombia, and Brazil. Every year the numbers change. I believe last year Colombia was the most dangerous. So again, these people are they're not just talking about intellectual ideas of environmentalism, of protecting the planet, of ecological thinking. They're putting their bodies on the line. They're putting their children on the front line to protect the ecosystems. So surely they believe in what they're saying to such a degree. Surely we should have a little time and space to listen to them carefully. And so that was what drove me over here. And this is a message that I would give to global leaders. We need to shift our perspective on these communities and actively integrate their wisdom and their knowledge into our future. We need to together imagine our future and take them out of the past in our psychology.
And RCO equals being a good ancestor. This is the shortest definition. And good ancestor, when you are thinking about indigenous wisdom, it's 7 generations ahead. If we are considering the first term about sustainability, that being sustainable or doing something in a sustainable way, it means that you have your needs not once met, but also in the same time you are considering the needs of the future generations. So we, the Occidental world, we are thinking 1 generation ahead. Indigenous wisdom goes 7 generations ahead. So another lesson how they think about us and to move on as a planet. So I'm curious just to give a bit more insights to those leaders you were mentioning now, to take an example that they are not just exotic and cute, but they have so much wisdom for us. Do you have some stories that marked you on the ground as examples of how true leadership and wisdom can be put in action?
Completely. I mean, there are so many examples. One of them, it was in my TED talk as well, was a community in Michoacan on the west coast of Mexico, in the state of Michoacan, and this community is living in a mountain range called the Sierra Costa de Michoacan, and this mountain range is full of minerals. There's gold, there's iron, there's silver, all these minerals. In fact, it was one of the oldest mines in Mexico. When Hernan Cortés came, it was one of the first places he went to looking for gold, and the Aztecs used to mine it for gold. And yet, this community that I visited, all around it, there are, iron mines and gold mines and silver mines. But this community that I visited, they said, what's more important to us is the forest on top of the mountain, the jaguars living in the forest. And, there might be gold in the mountain, but for us, the true value is the ecological value. So they're very clearly making a choice. And then when this European mining company that's based in Luxembourg wanted to come and mine their mountain for gold, they said no. And then, curiously, the cartel began to attack the community. The Jalisco cartel, which is one of the most powerful and heavily armed cartels in the world. They started to attack the community using drones. Why? To open up the land. And to open up the land to allow the mine to be implanted. Because if the mine is implanted, then the cartel can run a protection racket, make some money, get some money from the mining company. It's called derecho de piso. It's a very common practice here in Mexico and many mines. And so the cartel has an economic interest and incentive to defeat the community and open up the land and install this new mine. And what did the community do? This is a small community of 1,000 people. They said, no, we care about the jaguars and the forest and our way of life, our traditions, who we are, our land. We care about this so much that we're going to fight back. So they tried to fight back legally. The court cases went nowhere. And when that didn't work, they just bought arms. They bought weapons, and then they started to fight back the cartel. And the cartel has not been able to enter. And this has been at a great cost for the community. Many people have been killed. Many young people have been killed. And for me, this is incredibly inspiring that you would value nature so much that you're willing and you see yourself as a part of nature. You know, we say a lot of indigenous communities, they see nature as their family. They see themselves as one with nature. It's part of their identity. You know, to a Western mind and, you know, from outside can seem very abstract. But what does that mean in practice? It means that if somebody threatens your family member, if somebody threatens the forest, the jaguars, you fight back. You fight for your family. You put your body on the line, just as you would for your parents or your sister or your child. This would, you know, this is what actually, you know, being one with nature means. And they're putting it into practice. They don't need to explain it. They don't need to explain, you know, any concepts, any intellectual ideas. You go there and you see them fighting for nature. You see them taking risks to protect their forest, their river, their mountain. And so, yes, that for me is the kind of thinking, the kind of wisdom that I think we all should be inspired by. If the forest nearby, if the river nearby is being threatened, we should have that same mentality that this is our family. We need to go out and defend this in whatever way. If we can legally, that's great. If that works, that's great. But in some places, we should respect and honor and understand that the legal systems are broken. Like you said, you know, there's no accountability, there's no government. And so then what do? You fight with everything you've got because you're fighting a noble battle. You're fighting a defensive battle. You're protecting those you care about, the ecosystems, your family, and you also are protecting your family because your family cares for you. Nature sustains you, sustains your family, provides what your family needs to live, and so this interdependence, this bond, runs very deep in these communities. And I think, you know, I'm not saying everybody should go out and buy weapons and start fighting, you know, fighting wars, but I think taking the spirit of their thinking, of understanding this deep connection and cultivating it within us. And these kinds of battles don't need to be fought on the West Coast, on the, you know, Michoacan and Mexico only. They're all around us. Nature all around us is being threatened. This is a global battle. So we need to ask ourselves, inspired by these communities, what can we do nearby? How can we protect our family in the extended sense, not just our nuclear family, but the ecological family? How can we help protect our family and be good ancestors? Like you said, you know, to your point about the CEO and being good ancestors, this is what being a good ancestor means. We are leaving behind a legacy where ecosystems are intact. All the beautiful animals and plants that sustain us, we should pay it back and sustain them. And what we need to pass on to the next generations are, yes, the physical ecosystems, but also this sense of a deep bond between us and nature. This is what makes us human. We are part of the natural ecosystems. This is what we need to pass on to the next generations so that each generation in its turn fights to defend nature and the ecosystems. And we need to do that, like these communities, not through words, not just through words, but through examples. And my way is to be a reporter, you know, to go into these communities, elevate their stories. I see these communities that I'm reporting on across Latin America, I see them as a little bit like, you know, my job is a little bit like Herodotus, the great Greek reporter, and, you know, who wrote about the 300 Spartans, and we still hear their stories thousands of years later. I think these communities are equally noble, equally great and inspiring. And their stories should be told thousands of years later as the communities that defended animals, plants, forests that could not defend themselves. And so these communities put themselves on the front line. And their stories should be told and told again and passed on to inspire new generations of, you know, humans living all around the world in urban centers where the connection with nature is not necessarily so deep, but they can teach us, they can inspire us to do our part to collectively protect and nurture ecological diversity, and so that we hand over a legacy to the next generations.
What a wonderful message. And I love the ecological family term that we can use too. And I will use another term that I think you are very familiar. We will infiltrate, this time a question from the audience. It's from Daniel Melendez, who is part of our TLL community and ecosystem and group from the beginning. He's in Colombia, and he wants to understand what kind of mindset do you need to maintain equilibrium to tell the story without being affected by your emotions and adds inside the conflict zones?
That's a great question. I mean, yes, I guess, I get this work is not easy. But honestly, I'll give you an example. Like I went in Oaxaca in Mexico. I went to a protest. We were on a highway, and this community was protesting, blocked the highway, the Carretera Panamericana, one of the longest highways in the world. And they blocked it to protest the destruction of their forest. And I was walking with the protesters, and I asked them what's going to happen next, and they said, "Oh, what's the government going to do?" I asked, and they said, "Oh, the government, they're going to kill somebody." I asked, "Who are they going to kill?" They were like, "That guy, David." And so later, I sat down with David in his yard, and I asked him, "Aren't you afraid they're going to kill you?" And he said, "Of course I'm afraid, but I would rather people remember me for what I actually do, what I actually believe, than as someone afraid hiding inside my house." And at that moment, I was sitting in front of him. He's risking his life, and his kids are running behind me and playing. And he's risking his life. He could easily just say, "This is too dangerous. I want to be with my kids and my family." But no, he takes a risk. And so at that moment, what I'm inspired to say, how can I help you? How can I serve you, David? And so that sense of serving someone braver than you, serving someone who's doing work more important than you, in the way that I can as a journalist, I can raise their profile, I can tell their stories. It can seem difficult work because I'm working in contexts that are so, difficult, where there's so much suffering, so much killing. But I assure you, in every one of these places, there are inspiring examples of humanity, shining lights. And these are the people who give me hope, who inspire me, and who help me continue my work. And I guess the other answer is I write books that are memoirs. I'm characters in my own books. And so it's kind of like a therapeutic process. I see myself as a character going through and experiencing all these things. And this is what therapy is, right? To see yourself from a distance. So my work helps me process my emotions and be able to continue this kind of work. But thank you for the question.
Yes, wonderful. And we have a great community of just change makers here for the right causes. My last question to you, looking ahead, what advice would you give to the next generations of journalists and storytellers who are stepping into the world facing these major global challenges that we are having? How can they balance, for example, the need for impactful storytelling with the responsibility to bring about positive change?
Oof, I think, I don't have much advice for the storytelling community. I'm part of that storytelling community myself. I recognize that our storytelling community, journalism, especially war reporting, crisis reporting, human rights reporting, is in a state of crisis. There's less and less financing for the kind of work that I do. And I see my work and my role as trying to elevate not just my work, but the whole field. So I'm in the process of, creating a foundation, of trying to draw in funds that I can then deploy to other reporters who are incredibly brave but working in very, very difficult conditions. So I guess for the moment, my only advice or words to them would be just hang in there, because continue the work. We're all doing similar work. They're my peers. There's a lot of mutual respect. The work is important, and we're living in a strange time, a time of crisis where maybe the world doesn't has forgotten the importance or doesn't want to look at the importance of this kind of work of these communities because it threatens economic interests, social interests, it threatens our way of life. But I do believe that this work is deeply important, and I'm working on mobilizing resources, a community, to create a home for all of us. And I hope in the coming years that that will bear fruit and be a reality. So I'm very excited about these kinds of initiatives, and I'm hoping we can build a family as large as possible and help as many people as possible.
And you brought a lot of wisdom to us again, and showing hope and showing very, very positive vibes that there are so many people like you who are doing their part. Of course, you have a very special niche, but there are many people who are doing the part to have that kind of future we all envision. And I honor your fearless journalism from the ground to bring us the stories to the world, to light, and you showed us the power of integrity and truth in action. Your work in war zones and conflict areas, often at great personal risk, remind us to the importance of ethical storytelling and shaping the future, and the right reasons, what you also mentioned from your stories, the people who see the truth, connectivity, and what is worth to do in life if you want to live a good life and also be a good ancestor. So in recognition to your extraordinary contribution to sustainability and ethical leadership and your commitment to the long-term well-being of future generations in synergy with planet Earth, it's my honor to present you with the Earth CEO distinction.
Thank you so much, Cristina. Really appreciate it. And I appreciate your work in bringing together this community and trying to foster the kinds of change and mentality shifts and examples that all of us can benefit from. Thanks so much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I will let a couple of minutes, Joaquin, to take over until our next final speaker will join the stage.
And Jen, before you go, I do have one more question for you. You mentioned this concept of the centers of power kind of conflating to protect each other's interests, and you are a truth seeker. I mean, the title of the session is In the Trenches of Truth. That's how you've devoted your entire career. That's what you believe in. Information and journalism and all these things is an effective key to enabling this change in everybody around the world. How do you how can you recommend somebody to undertake this mantle of responsibility, even in a small way, where it won't threaten their life, but at least they'll have some meaningful contribution?
I mean, yeah, that's a great question. I guess, amplifying these stories when you find them. I guess, also in some way, honestly questioning the worlds in which you work. And I'm not saying, give up providing for your family or doing the work that you need to do, but at least on the side, doing what you can to elevate people like in these communities who are very courageously risking everything, risking their lives and their children's lives to protect nature on behalf of us all. They're doing a public service. I guess there are people all around the world doing public service. There are doctors and nurses, there are journalists, there are economic environmental defenders. Find your niche, and there are hidden stories. There are people who are doing very noble work all around us. They're not being recognized. Society, we live in a strange world where even during the pandemic, the nurses and doctors didn't get much recognition. There are a lot of people who are working in the shadows, who deserve attention and who deserve recognition. I think doing whatever you can. It can be a simple thank you. It can be a gesture. It can be a donation. It can be building a community initiative, supporting them. A little support can go a long, long way, because this work is really draining. And often, I speak for myself, and I'm sure other frontline human rights workers and would agree. This work can feel very lonely. There's a great sense of inspiration and purpose that drives people like myself. We feel like we're serving the public, we're serving community, we're serving humanity. But in the day-to-day, it can feel quite isolated. because everybody's going off and going about their work. I think a sense of community, sense of support, even in a small way, can go a long distance towards providing that psychological, financial, social support layer that's necessary for everybody to continue doing their work. The people I know who are doing this kind of work are deeply committed. They will do the work no matter what. They're not going to stop doing the work because, just because there's no support. But I think it can help amplify the work. It can make it easier. So yes, just look around you in communities. It could be in a slum nearby. It could be in a hospital. It could be a social program, or it could be further away, like these indigenous environmental defense communities that I'm reporting on. Wherever you find it's possible, take that first step. And my belief, my intuition is that by taking that first step, actually, you will start a much longer journey that you can't even see right now. That will lead you who knows where. And that journey that you go on will benefit everybody. So my encouragement would be to take that first step as close as possible, as easy as possible, or wherever it's convenient. Look at those stories that are not being told. Look at those people who don't have a light on them, and try to help in some way. See how you can help, and very likely that will start a life-changing journey. That will, mean a lot to you in the end as well.
Well, Anjan, we hope to keep a very close eye on your journey and how you shape and develop this foundation. And this is a community in itself. I hope we can gather the right allies, strategic allies, or financial partners to help you realize this vision. So we're going to bring Cristina back on stage, and I think we're going to get started for the next and final interview. Anjan, again, It was a pleasure to have you, and very honored to hear from you firsthand your experiences.
Thank you. Thank you, Joaquin. Thank you, Cristina. An honor to be here, and thank you for the honor as well.
I cannot believe that we are almost 3 hours in our event or more. I mean, wow, where everything went through, and such a wonderful atmosphere with amazing speakers. I received so many messages also in private about our event and the quality, our usual quality with the community of people here for the right change, and our speakers. And I'm thrilled to introduce our final speaker today, Peggy Liu, the chairperson of JUICE. And JUICE stands for Joint US-China Collaboration on Clean Energy. And she is one of the world's leading voices on sustainability and cross-national collaboration. Such an important topic for TLL and our mission. Peggy's work has been instrumental to drive China's rapid green transformation, and her unique ability to bring together different cultures and industries was a role model for other countries as well. And she has been key to create innovative climate solutions, not just in China, but globally. Peggy is the epitome of the Earth CEO concept, in my view, because someone who combines wisdom, vision, and a global perspective around how we can become green and have a lasting impact on the planet is just a role model we can all aspire to listen to. And so let's welcome Peggy to share her insights on leadership, sustainability, and the path forward, the global collaboration. So please, Joaquin, her intro video.
There is no debate in China about climate change. And so starting in 2006, when a lot of these policies started appearing, they acknowledged climate change as being man-made and that China must do its part to be part of the solution and create a greener, healthier world. China is changing. It's changing from the factory of the world to the clean tech laboratory of the world. And again, China is changing every 5 years. So I can tell you that my block in 5 years is going to be completely different. I'm not going to be able to recognize it. China welcomes you to come work with Chinese to create low-cost sustainable solutions that can be deployed around the world. So
sustainability and soft power are two peas in a pod, because sustainability is really about us being in harmony with each other, us being in harmony with nature, and soft power is also about harmony. It's all about being in alignment how do we make sure that people who feel like they want the same type of future, and this could be, many different futures, but let's make sure that these tribes are working together. And that's really the definition I have of soft power. It's working together in harmony.
Welcome, Peggy Liu.
Hi, Cristina. I love these are amazing intros that you've done. Thank you. I'm like learning about myself.
Yes, and I'm learning more and more about you and your mission. And let me tell you that you are playing such an important role, because one of our mission at TLL is to unite the globe. And we are living in the middle of a divisive leadership where you are with me or against me. And there is so much controversy around China as being the big polluter, but also there is the other way around, and that China leads the way in sustainability for so many fronts. So is it in time? That is the real question.
Yes.
And you were one of the leading voice who wanted to unite the two big countries, US and China, and also highlight the truth about the science, statistics, and what is happening actually on the ground in China that people need to know. And this will open up a completely new perspective that we are in this together. China takes its role seriously. It's not an enemy. It's just a different culture, the way different cultures exist all over the globe. I mean, Europe, for example. And we need to see it as part of our one nation, one earth nation that we need to continue to move on together. So can you share, please, what sparked your passion for sustainability and how that journey had shaped your leadership role over the years?
Yeah. Gee, maybe we should rename this to be One Earth CEO. I'm just listening to you. I'm like, oh, it's One Earth CEO. Well, so you had asked me this question, and I really thought about this question, like, how did I spark this passion for sustainability? Because, I give sort of the same answers a lot over the years, over the decades, but I really sat down and I was like, what is my earliest memory of really caring about sustainability or the environment? And all of a sudden it struck me that when I was about 12 years old, I had moved from California, Northern California, Silicon Valley, to Connecticut, to this place where it was like heavily forested. It was the suburbs of Greenwich, Connecticut. A lot of sort of scary trees, big scary trees, winding cow paths for roads. And it was sort of dotted with ponds. And I remember that my grandfather, who was a feng shui master, so if anybody knows what that is, it's basically working with the energy alignment of the mountains and the rivers and your house, the doors, the windows, etc. So he had chosen this plot of land for my parents to build a new home on. And I remember as a kid, I would spend a lot of hours in the back along the creek in front of the house. And I was by myself, and I spent a lot of time doing things like making salads, cooking salads, but I would pick up the pine cones and the cabbage, the leaves, etc., and I make my own, pretend salad. And I think like this was the beginning of me learning how to cook, to remix everything as an ingredient, but that everything was valuable, right? So I realized like, wow, this might have been the beginning. And then I remember there was huge granite boulders, and there was this like shiny, flaky material, which I learned later is called mica. And I remember searching for treasures in the rocks. And I realize now I'm always looking for treasures in nature, like the mica and the boulders. And my grandfather told my family, like, look, I chose this one plot because there's this creek flowing in the front of the house. You are on the slope of the mountain, the hill in the back. It's very protective. And you have ponds in front. And so I started to be more sensitive about energy flow, the structure of protection, the structure of flow, the structure of what does abundance look like from a feng shui point of view. And then what was really interesting is this place had something called skunk cabbage. So it looked like lettuce. I could have picked it for my fake salad, but it smells like a skunk. And it only appears when there's imbalance in nature. Something's wrong. And so I learned about the consequence of imbalance, I believe, from those early days. And so now when I think about sustainability, really what I want to do is have everybody imagine their life. What does prosperity mean from this type of experience? Right? And so I spend most of my life, my journey in sustainability, helping people experience that, the connectiveness with nature, with people, the excitement of discovery. I don't like to talk about doom. We could easily do that. I could easily talk about how fast things are going wrong. But what I very intentionally have done is shift from talking about doom to solutions that bloom. Like that's really where my heart lies.
Wonderful storyteller. That's why you are the voice of China going green. Yeah. I wonder at this stage, is real change possible? Because this is what we discussed in private. And maybe this is the right type of angle and question that we should ask.
Yeah. Well, first, I want to give people hope that yes, real change is possible at any time. And I'm going to give a couple examples. Right? One is my own life. I did not study environmentalism at MIT. I studied electrical engineering, computer science. Actually, there wasn't such a thing back when I graduated in 1990. So I learned everything that I know now from scratch in the experience at the time when I needed to. But since I began JUICE, Joint U.S.-China Collaboration on Clean Energy, in 2007, I started working on it in 2006, but it really launched in 2007. From that time until COVID hit, really, at August 2020, it really just stopped everything. Those 13 years, this organization, which was a volunteer organization, very little money, but a lot of momentum, a lot of vision, we were able to change China 7 times. And I'm not talking about a small change. I'm not talking about a neighborhood. I'm not talking about a city. I'm talking about the entire country 7 times. We catalyzed clean energy. If you look at the growth of clean energy, it started with really the beginning of JUICE. We brought in smart grid technology with the encouragement of the US government. We taught mayors across China how to build eco-cities at the request of the Ministry of Housing and Urban Rural Development of China. And these are things that, you know, when you teach 1,000 mayors how to build eco-cities, and each city can be like 26 million people. You know, 5 million is a small suburb in China. When you can do that, you can change the entire country. So I just want to show from my own personal example, again, with no previous training, I was able to help lead a small organization to change a country 7 times over. So one, I want to say real change is possible, generally speaking. I also, from an energetic point of view, from a philosophy point of view, change is the only constant. Change is the only thing that we can count on in our lives. So is change possible? That's not the right question, right? Because it's about whether or not we want to ride the change and have no control over it, or whether or not we want to get involved and be intentional about the change that we want to create. So 2, I want to say we are always changing. It's just a matter of whether we do it intentionally or not. Right? And then 3, one of the biggest lessons that I learned was if you do something once, you're successful once, it might be luck. If you're successful 3 times, there's definitely something to this. You hit some nerve, right? Some sort of trend. But when you are able to change a country like China 7 times over, there's a framework to be learned from. And I teach this all around the world. I'm excited to tell you about it. I call it tornado leadership. And so rather than leading through a hierarchy or through structure or through planning or through goals only, what you do is you try to birth a tornado. You increase the momentum, the bandwidth, the diameter of the tornado. You draw people in because they're so magnetized by the gravitational force of this tornado. And then you don't know where you're going, but that's okay, because wherever you're going, tornado is going to create an entirely different reality. So for me, I tell people, one, I learned to create from the future that I want, not the past. Because the tornado doesn't care about the past. It destroys the past. It doesn't matter what the past is. It goes forward into the future. It doesn't have a path. The path is always changing, but it's going into the future. So create from the future, not the past. Two, what I've learned about leadership, and this is really important, I think a lot of people do it intuitively, but they don't understand the real value that this is probably the most important thing that they're doing, which is, instead of metrics and KPIs, key performance indicators, you focus on momentum. You build momentum. So momentum over metrics. And then the third is, I've learned that, especially with geopolitics, with collaboration of different systems that don't speak the same language, don't live in the same place, they have a different culture, it's very important to orchestrate the resonance of this tornado. So in an orchestra, it doesn't matter if you're a violin, it doesn't matter if you're tuba, it doesn't matter if you're drum. You have a conductor that's making sure that everything's in harmony, that together you're building momentum, right? And then you come to a climax, and then you reach the end, right? But you do it together, harmoniously. So orchestration of resonance, feeling the energy build and dissolve, build and dissolve, that's the third phase that I think it's very, very important for tornado leaders to learn. And so, yes, real change is possible, Cristina. Starting now, we can do it today.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, everything in this world has two facets. It can be good or it can be bad. So tornado leadership, it's so worthy to learn from nature and how we can approach rapid change if we want now global sustainability. On the other hand, it's very interesting because part of our community, David Dodd, who is a respectable member of our community in resilience and adaptation, he just had a tornado and he couldn't attend, or he could attend for a couple of minutes, but they don't have now power, and so we can see this affecting climate change and everything that goes on, affecting our real lives today, and we don't know what's going on tomorrow, but also we can unite, and as you said, yes, we can change things rapidly. Real change is still possible. We have these measures and we have these lessons from nature that we can utilize, but we have to act, and we have to act faster. So what lessons can the world learn? Because China truly acted very fast in multiple projects that the world doesn't know, have no idea, and it would be just like shocking. So you could bring a couple of examples of those, but what could the world learn from China's rapid green transformation, and what challenges still lie ahead, in your opinion?
I think the important lesson that I learned was each of these changes not only are possible, but you can do them in 3 years. Not that you complete the transformation, but you reach a tipping point, a shift where China could never go back. Whoever you're working with can never go back, right? And so I'll give you a few of these examples. One is smart grid. So in 2007, after JUICE was formed, after the first public dialogues between US and Chinese government officials on clean energy, the US was like, we want to open communication with China on smart grid. We want to do technology transfer, because they were the leader in technologies at the time. They wanted to open the market. Right. So I didn't even know what the term smart grid was, even though I went to MIT and I was an electrical engineer. This is very new technology. In China, we didn't even have the Chinese word for smart grid. So what did I do? In 2007, again, April, I said, here's a little picture of what smart grid is, right? And there's wind, there's solar, there's, intermittent power from that. But then you also have EVs, electric vehicles, et cetera, et cetera. And I brought it to the top grid players in China. And interestingly enough, it was so new. They looked at this electric vehicle in 2007 and they said, this seems a little science fiction. Maybe you should come back in 10 years. Now, we all know what happened with electric vehicles in China. So even Chinese people don't even know how fast the change can happen in China or anywhere in the world. But I'll continue the story with smart grid. So again, I started with the picture of the future we wanted. And again, this wasn't me making it up. It was like people from IBM and Cisco and McKinsey and US Department of Energy and Lawrence Livermore National Lab, et cetera. They were all giving me input. And I would draw this picture and present it to the Chinese grid companies. And so I committed to do 3 events in rapid succession. I did one in Shanghai, one in Beijing, and one in Yangzhou, so 3 major cities. And lo and behold, in 2.5 years, China had so much momentum in the press, in the local governments that wanted to use this to, have some sort of economic industry for their city, like Yangzhou. And all of a sudden, with this momentum, the state grid of China, which covers most of China's grid, they committed $7.2 billion to implement by 2020 smart grid, the initial phase, which they did. So in less than 3 years, right? Each one of these things that I worked on in less than 3 years, China was able to make a rapid transformation. I'll give you another example. Somebody from GE, one of the youngest managing directors, said he wanted to volunteer with Juice for a year. So he left his job and helped me try to figure out how to give away free compact fluorescent light bulbs in exchange for old incandescent light bulbs. So what we wanted to do was shift the energy use of lighting to something that was much more energy efficient. So McKinsey had created this chart that said lighting and heating and cooling, those are the first 2 things that we should be working on. Easy, right? So we did this thing where a lot of company CEOs came in, a lot of celebrities, even Vogue, covered it. And we gave people 6 free compact fluorescent light bulbs for their old incandescent light bulbs. Lo and behold, this became so popular in the press that Shanghai and Beijing independently gave 2 million light bulbs out each in 1 weekend alone. And then lo and behold, that created more momentum for the tornado that the government banned incandescent lighting. And now China not only went from compact fluorescence, but now is the leader in LED, even more efficient lighting. So I want to show that there was no plan to do this. This was not, I didn't know where this would go. I just felt like this is the future. How can I get people who are excited about it to go, whether it's large CEO or a small neighborhood grandmother, to change her own lighting? All of us are spinning in the same tornado at the same speed upward together. And boom, before 3 years was up, the entire policy of China had changed. I'll give you another example, and I'll give you more examples as we go. But in renewable energy, one of the things that I want to stress, a lot of people still don't know, China is the leader in installed capacity, right? In fact, most of the increase in the entire world of installed capacity for solar and wind is actually within China, because of China. The mistake I think a lot of people have when they think about China going green and they are skeptical of it is this: they're like, oh, well, isn't China still building more coal plants? Okay, so I would like to say that China is going so fast, changing so fast. It's very important for you not to just judge on a single statistic, a single moment in time alone. It's very important to look at the momentum of the train. How fast is the train accelerating? And then look at the path of the train. Then you can look at the destination of the train if they have it in mind. The issue with people in the media sort of poisoning people's understanding of what's happening in China, it's sort of, they're not comparing apples to apples, it's apples to oranges, is they're not understanding the ratio of change. So with China, they have committed to net zero by 2060 for an entire country of 1.4 billion people. This is tremendous change that will basically be more than all other countries combined. What all other countries have to do, China has to do more. The increase in coal, just in this brief moment in time before all coal is basically banned, is local provinces trying to improve the efficiency of old coal plants, closing those down, and then putting in new coal plants. However, there's smaller, more efficient coal plants, and the amount of coal compared to the gigawatts of renewable energy is like less than 1% probably. It's very, very minor, okay? The other thing is that when the policies of China, for example, to generate 50% of the increase in energy use from 2020 to 2025 from renewable sources, okay? Like 50% increase of renewable energy sources in 5 years. Okay, just think about that. What's going to happen is there's going to be policy pressure on all provinces to shut down coal very soon. So even if people are right now just focused on a few new coal plants to increase efficiency, very rapidly they're going to shift completely from the coal to the renewable energy installed capacity that we are building. The third point that I'm going to mention is very interesting. Compared to other countries, China has overbuilt. Overbuilt is not the right word. It has built so much installed capacity that we can't even use it fast enough. Can you believe that? So it isn't criticizing them for not going green. They're growing so fast in going green that some parts of the body are not catching up. So now the grid needs to be able to digest the installed capacity that we've overbuilt. Overbuilt is not the right word. It's just that it's built up ahead of time. So there's many components that I would hope people would take a little bit more careful look at when looking at, is China going green? Like by far, no question about it, China is going green and is leading the world in going green. And for them to say it will go net neutral by 2060 is, I think no other country has the political willpower to make that claim. So I'm not paid by the China government to say this, by the way. It's very neutral observation. If you look at Yale, if you look at any other institution that talks about the growth of renewable energy, this is the case. This is what's happening. So yes, we still have coal, but it's moving very, very, very fast away from it.
And it's very important for the world to have this data, because I see that misinformation is all over. And if it creates division, I mean, you cannot go sustainable if the biggest countries in the world, they are like in war or they are divided and they don't talk with each other. So I value so much to bring all parties to the table. It is part of the global governance aspect that I see as a strong mission for TLL, to move the SDGs closer to a resolution. In my opinion, if we would have the right type of leaders on top of things, we wouldn't have the SDGs to solve.
Yes.
And I so much love that all the speakers, and it was not discussed before, but you just focused on the indigenous truth and from different perspectives. Because, for example, maybe you didn't see in the intro, but Tammy Lewis is connected to the indigenous tribes also through her family, but she did this for a long time in Canada. And then we had Anjan, who also mentioned the indigenous truth and how important it is, not just from Mexico, but from all of those parts of the world where he was. And then you mentioning, because you're living between China and Hawaii, Ahupu'ah system. I noted here, I hope I pronounce this correctly, and you created a documentary about the Hawaiian model for communal stewardship, and we will send that link inside the LinkedIn, because we cannot just click links here. And so that is super, super crucial to me to just spread the word. And so now back to climate change and everything we just said and the indigenous truth. So we are clear that we need collaboration. And with your experience working across sectors and nations, how can global leaders better collaborate on sustainability and climate solutions?
I think collaboration is the only way that we're going to help address climate change. So if you think about a tornado, it doesn't matter if you're a dust particle or a house or a cow, you're all going in the same direction, same speed, and upward together. And in fact, for bike, races, the drafting technology where you have 5 bikes all in a row, the 5th bike actually works the least hard, but you're all going faster forward together. So collaboration is multiplicative, and it's the only way that we're going to tackle something as big as climate change. And sustainability is something that is multifaceted. You cannot do it with a single technology. So I'll give you an example of how China likes to collaborate. It fundamentally believes that if your neighbors are prosperous, then there will be peace. If you help your neighbors with, for example, building infrastructure so they can build their ship their exports to China to sell on the Belt and Road, then they will be more prosperous, then their neighbors will be more peaceful, then China will be less at risk, right? So this is one of the major motivations for Belt and Road. I'll give you an example of something that China, an institute, spent several decades, in Qingdao, creating a hybrid rice, not a GMO rice, right? And this rice is now able to grow in salinated waters. Okay, so this is very important for reducing methane, because the way rice now grows is in paddies of fresh water, right? So you have to have irrigation, you have to have water, right? So of course, a desert, you can't do this, right? But then after the harvest, all of this stalks are sitting in water, in heat, and they just they turn to waste. What happens to food waste? It turns into methane. And I think we all know here that methane is worse than carbon dioxide as a greenhouse gas. So rice is actually one of the major contributors to, believe it or not, climate change. So what China has done is created something that you can actually use salinated waters in deserts. So you don't have this issue of the, composting methane in rice paddies. But it doesn't just keep it for itself. Of course, Chinese eat a lot of rice. It's taking the technology, and it's working, for example, in 2018, Dubai, in UAE, China and UAE work together. I think they're planting 10,000 square meters, like a hectare right now, of salt-tolerant desert rice. And UAE thinks if it takes 10% maybe of the desert and plants it with paddies, it can feed not only Dubai, but the entire Arabian Peninsula. And they're bringing it to Africa, et cetera, et cetera. So this is an example of course, everybody can use this. Why not collaborate? Because what we learn in Dubai will help us in China. What we learn in China will help in Dubai. What we learn in Dubai will help Africa. These are the type of opportunities that we need to look for. And China is working on this at institutional level. So let's look for ways to collaborate, not compete.
And 2 more quick questions, because we had a buffer time and everything just works so smoothly with our schedule. And I'm super happy, and Joaquin, for sure, he as well. So here about collaboration, what do you think are the key areas where the 2 countries like US and China can work together, and how might that collaboration drive global change? What type of mothership they could give to the world?
I mean, there's sensitive things like, for example, China now has a whole city, Hefei, that is focused on fusion, nuclear fusion, right? And a lot of plasma energy breakthroughs are coming out of this. There are like thousands of researchers, 30, world-class national labs. They had a breakthrough last August of, I think, over 400 seconds of running fusion. That was like world's record, right? They're already creating technologies that are in use. And that isn't just about energy generation, but it's things like, how do you detect in an airport or a subway if somebody has a metal or a liquid that is, dangerous, right? Using this technology. Can you imagine a whole city that is focused on nuclear fusion? It's incredible. However, things like that, I understand the military will prevent collaboration. So let me say, it's very obvious for me that disaster response is one of the most important things that we can be collaborating on. You said I, lived in Hawaii. Well, during last year, the Lahaina Maui fires, I helped the nation of Hawaii come together with Amazon Disaster Response Unit to do on the ground building of the command center, of doing a lot of scary, I won't go into the details, but on the ground work recovering, we're not recovering, just responding at that point to the Maui fires. So this was a learning lesson for me in many ways. You mentioned the ahupua'a. The Hawaiians actually have this ancient, sophisticated model of communally storing water flow from the mountain where the clouds kiss the top of the mountains and create rain to where it flows down to the sea. And there's fish ponds. And this communal stewardship is not just an environmental model, it's a living model. It's a spiritual model. It's a governance model. And after teaching 1,000 mayors how to build eco-cities, scouring the world for how to build, ecological, environmentally friendly technologies at city scale, I learned after moving to Hawaii that this is probably the most important model that we need to bring to the rest of the world. Now, in a disaster, what happened with Maui is they had diverted the ahupua'a, the water flow, to industry, to factories, in the city. And so they ran out of water is one of the problems, right? They literally ran out of water because the water had been diverted. So they used, my team used, I think 5 or 6 drones. I think it was 5 drones, and they mapped the water flow. They were mapping, China is the #1 leader in drones right now. So drone technology. Hurricanes, the US government now is preparing for F6 and F7 level hurricanes. So on the meter now, F5 is the highest level. So the US government is preparing for black sky events with no electricity, no water, right? No communications, etc. Well, China is as well. And we have a lot of technologies that we can, collaborate with. So I would say it's very obvious to me after Maui that the US, China, Africa, island nations, Europe, and everybody around the world, we should be focused on how do we adapt to nature? And part of it is disaster response to help us respond and then adapt, respond and adapt.
And we had already some initiatives inside our community for disaster response. We set up groups to work on this. We had a Colombian fire, and we had the US detecting systems that are doing this work. From the Europe side as well, there are multiple initiatives, what you are saying about the Amazon groups jumping in Hawaii to help them out. Here as well in Europe, we have issues. Greece had multiple fires. Romania jumped in. Romanians are very good firefighters, by the way. They have great technology. They know how to do that. They jumped in multiple times. So there is a lot of collaboration around everywhere in the group, in the world. And this
every
is 10
minutes. Every 10 minutes, there is a disaster somewhere, and that's only going to increase in intensity and frequency. So let's do this out together.
These are just linked. And finally, you've been called the Green Goddess of China, a testament to your incredible influence over the country. What advice would you give to the next generation of leaders aspiring to make a significant impact on sustainability?
Well, I'm going to repeat that we can manifest change at large scale. We can control the world we live in. A lot of this may be a little bit more philosophical, energetic, spiritual, but I think you can start with your life, and bringing in harmony into yourself, right? So the chaos, many leaders have said, the chaos we see in the world is only a reflection of the chaos that we see from within ourselves. So when we understand everything is about harmony and balance, sustainability is harmony and balance, then we can change our lives. We can change our neighborhood, our city, our country, the world. But we have to start from ourselves. The other thing that I would say is tornadoes do not compete with each other. When they bump into each other, both of them disappear. Both of them lose energy. You can have multi-vortex tornadoes. in the world, we can all improve our lives, go forward, but each tornado can spin in its own pace, own direction. So I would say spend less time worrying about who's right and who's wrong, good and bad, who's protesting against systems that don't belong. Instead, just jump to the future that you want. And then it's much faster to reverse engineer a shortcut to the future. So I'm super excited to be working with you today, to continue to work with your membership and see where the future leads us.
Likewise, Peggy, and you are a true pioneer that had a lifelong work driving China's green transformation, giving a model to the world about what's possible, bringing the real data for us to know. And your leadership in global sustainability efforts left an incredible mark on the world. And today we were discussing with David Layton about the importance of women leadership in the world, because we drive sustainability, we are open to it, we consider the future as part of our legacy, and it's more natural for us to do this. And you are one of those female leaders in the world that are talking and taking the lead in this, and who nurtures collaboration for climate solutions, that makes your model as a visionary and ethical leadership perfectly suited for the Earth CEO title. And you said one Earth CEO, and that sounds good as well. So in recognition to your extraordinary contribution to sustainability, ethical leadership, and your commitment to the long-term well-being of the future generations in synergy with Mother Earth, it's my honor to present you with the Earth CEO distinction.
Thank you so much, Cristina. Joaquin, thank you so much. I'm very honored, very honored. And I hope everybody sees themselves as an Earth CEO. That's the true message.
Yes, and we are just starting. I hope the same. Thank you so much for being with us today. All right, Joaquin, we are super nicely in time. Wow. I let you for 1 minute, just wrap up and maybe give us some details about the poll or a new poll, and what would you want to just add until I prepare the final part of our amazing event that is almost over. But for those of you who are here, don't miss out the final networking event. I mean, you want to join, and maybe you will find some of the amazing guests you saw here today, or those from the comment section. And there are also people who are joining late, or they came back because of their commitments, because there are multiple events around the world, around climate, around the SDGs, around everything. And so don't miss out the networking event.
Yeah, I just want to say what a whirlwind we've been a part of in this. I mean, it doesn't even seem like 3 hours. It seems like time melted away. Hearing all these pioneers, all these change makers across the world. I'm also thoroughly happy to see Tanya and Manas and Carolina and everybody in the chat just share their perspectives and enthusiasm for this event, and the work that Peggy and Anjan and David and Roberta, all these people have done. Tammy as well. Yeah. Do we have any questions, comments, or concerns around involvement in the future for this event? We have a comment from Young Bo. Hello, everybody. Just joining now, jumping in between back-to-back calls, spanning the full spectrum of climate action from high-speed rail to drop-in biofuels. Well, welcome, Young Bo. All sessions will be recorded, so you can come and rewatch as you have time. We're going to be moving into the next segment, where we're going to be doing honorary mentions for people who also were unable to show up in person or virtually, but are here with us in spirit and through their accomplishments. Bring Cristina back on stage, and yeah, we can get the show back on the road.
Thank you, Kim. And this is the last section of our event where I will take the lead of talking also from the background why I chose to name our CEOs from our community and the people you also witnessed today. I mean, I'm so impressed, aren't you, by the quality of the speeches and what these people are doing for us all. And Tech Leadership Lab wants to be the light and the connector and then the accelerator of solving those SDGs for us to act as good ancestors. That's why our CEO. And I also wanted to symbolize this as a model of good leadership that I find that they illustrate different aspects of their CEO model. And it's hard to have them maybe live, but it doesn't even matter because I think that this is just the beginning of a new wave of our CEOs that see themselves as good ancestors and that are here for the long haul and for the benefit of us all, not just here in the present, but for the future generations. And that's why I prepared 4 distinctions just because of the gender thing. I wanted to be yin and yang. You see me here with Joaquin, and we had 3 women, amazing women leaders, 3 amazing men leaders. And now we will have 4 distinctions. Again, split it, and it's just a model about how, for example, we see our CEO leadership and model. And we can start the presentation. So the RCO launch is today, after 1 year that Tech Leadership Lab started from an idea and from a call to action. And basically it was a newsletter and weekly audio events on LinkedIn. This is how TLS started. And today we are here with a community that is close to around 200 inner circle members who are helping us in different capacity as part of our research body or advisors or projects that are undergoing or will be enabled and launched as soon as we have the funds or different kind of other means. So if you want to join to truly create a sustainable future and be part of the global governance that is just shaping right now, just join us and help us with whatever you can, because we are in this together. And time is its essence to move things faster. So the 4 honorary distinctions that I chose for the first anniversary of Tech Leadership Lab are you, then you own that responsibility about your next decision, because you cannot just act and do every kind of crazy things. You need to consider that you can just start the waves, or as Peggy Leo said, you can start tornadoes, and you need to be very responsible with your decision-making process and the people you are putting together in seats, in powerful seats. So today we celebrated extraordinary individuals inside the TLS community, outside, that were nicely sourced in a way to create a very nice palette of individualities that are here for the right cause. And I hope that I managed to surprise you with the selection of the people who talk with us today and who were also selected for the final distinctions. And these are leaders who understand that the future is in our hands and that we must act today to build a sustainable, ethical world for tomorrow. That is why I invite you, starting today, to reflect if your actions are good enough in doing what you could do in order to create a better future. And you don't need to get stuck because you say, oh, but no one knows me, or who am I to do something? You are a uniqueness, a person who has your own unique traits and skills, and you can just start to do one step at a time. And what you can even do better, to unite with people like us, with communities, be part, an active part of such communities, because every good intentioned community in this world needs so much help. And every single skill, it can be very useful for such community. I know that I could have good use for at least a couple of hundreds of extra people to move the needle faster and start to put the puzzle pieces together faster in a way that we can start moving the needle in the right direction. But the good thing is that we are here and we are enough if we want to. And thank you, Greg, for congratulating the anniversary event. I want to see you inside the chat before soon to begin the networking event. If you like this event, if you have comments for us, I know that Joaquin prepared a questionnaire, and you can also join me if you want. That will be sent after the event to you, and I would kindly ask you to complete that, because it will help us to improve our processes, what we can do better for the future events, and also if you want to be more involved with us. And so thank you for your kind words here. And for the remaining minutes, I would love to just continue to talk a little bit about TLL, but maybe you will join me, Joaquin, if you have a question for me that would just pinpoint the right direction.
I think, as somebody said in the comments, a follow-up event to discuss collaborative actions would be great. I know this is the first year that this has been in effect, but community work, working with people, working in networks, it's exponential. I mean, year one, you get a few people. Year two, year three, it just balloons from there. So, what are your thoughts? What is your vision for taking TLL to the next year?
I think I want to also be very, very transparent after the first year, because TLL went through a lot. Many people were part of TLL in different capacity at different stages, starting not day one. Last year in September, I was alone. The first person joined me in October. And then we just started to grow and grow. And now we have different tribes for advisory, for research body, for policy making, for collaborations. And it is like, think of TLL as a global or solar system, and you have the planets around that are basically tribes of people doing different things, and then how we can connect each other globally, because that was also something very, very important, to be global. Everything we did, the little tests, the little pilots that we had around swarm intelligence with Louis Rosenberg and unanimous AI, around the global story, what kind of global unifier narrative we could share as humans together that would give that clarity to the policymakers. Hey, this is what humans are rely on, and they want to. And we can take this as a one story and move on. So we had a pilot, and we will continue to have that pilot with Luis, and he's part of our partner network as well. We have multiple partners. As I said, I think that our internal community is around a little bit over 200 people. Our audience is around 1,200, 1,200 people. And it's constantly growing, but now we are in different stages, because of course at the beginning and with our first summit in March, the intersection of climate, AI, and humanity, we had a group of people who were for that project and were helping TLL with that particular project. At the beginning, there were other people. Of course, some people can continue to help such missions, but especially when you are not funded yet, it is a little bit harder when you are relying on volunteers. So this is a mindset shift that we all need to consider: how much you are willing to do at a volunteer basis, how much you need to do because you need to live as well. How can we support such initiatives? And this became very prevalent this year, the hardship of good workers and doing good work, because we had an event around doing good burnout with psychologists around this. It's not an industry. It is like our future, because there are people who are doing good around the world, NGOs, but not just NGOs, like TLL, and TLL is not an NGO, doing the right things. But the funds are going where it's rapid growth and rapid profit. And this is not sustainable. We need to shift the system, and very quickly. But also consider what you can do to be sustainable. So TLL goes into the second phase right now to become sustainable financially as well. And think of it as a holding, because we will have multiple entities, not just one, and going in the startup-ish direction, because we can have a couple of products as well, but we will have we are now building internal communities, starting with tech founders that are innovating inside the SDG space. And what we will offer to this tribe, you won't find in any other group. I can promise you this, because it's not just about getting together as a tribe and mingle and having that kind of mastermind groups, or maybe your extra sounding board as advisory boards next to your peers to help you succeed as an entrepreneur founder. But besides of that, you have a goal around the SDGs. You want to solve something for the world. And that's why we are also filtering startups that are scalable and their potential to the world, it's big. It can be a small solution, but combined with other solutions, it could solve one of the SDGs. So this is the perspective. And so we are filtering this type of companies that have this kind of potential. And then we want to connect them together, because if one thing is clear, no one has the solution to solve any of the SDGs. But together, there are multiple pieces. So you need to be able and open to collaborate, because your solution in Africa with another one solution in Canada, with another one's from Germany or Romania, and they put together, they can be the solution of something around the water aspect, or the energy aspect, or the food aspect, or health issues. And so you need to be willing to think about solutions as open source. We are in a new open source economy. And this is the way that things can be solved. And we will be behind those startups. And so our tribes differentiate from not just giving you whatever you need, but we actively pushing from the background to go to the next stage. It's like an extra startup organization for your own benefit. So it is very, very unique. And this is some of, it's part of what I've done for 2+ decades, just like filling in, problem solving, entering in impossible missions, and just needing to solve them, finding new strategies others couldn't see. And this time I can bring all of that knowledge and tactics and strategies in the benefit of the companies and the workers who are doing good for our sustainable future.
I think a major theme that was covered as a consequence of everybody's deeply held belief system, and we didn't orchestrate this in the back end. It just sort of seeped out of all the speakers' pores, is that we cannot solve these problems as isolated actors. We need to be working within a matrix of tornadoes. We need to all be spinning and helping each other spin and gain momentum. Greg says it here: we are not a drop in the ocean. We are the ocean, or we are the complete ocean in a drop, however you want to say it. Yeah, I hear you there with global is the way forward. I With the Swarm community, I've held the deep belief that bringing together a field that otherwise is sort of splintered and driven by commercial interests, as you said, AI is a booming idea, and everybody's trying to harp to gather as many resources for their own gain. The important part is getting the people doing the work and navigating the policy making and investing in it to have candid conversations as how we can use this technology for good. So any way that I can support you, Cristina, I'm here, and this is the first of many events that we're going to be putting together for sure.
And thank you for this wonderful organization. I think we handled it pretty good. The feedbacks until now are good. We are not yet over. The networking event is just coming, but my final words would be that I appreciate every person that just was part of the Tech Leadership Lab's journey, because they shaped a particular step on the journey. And even if there were good moments or bad moments, they just shaped what comes next, because we are listening, and TLI will always listen what comes next. And I know that there are struggles, and I know that there are emergency situations, and things just happen in life. But I am very certain that if you are living your life with the future here, because in my view, people ask me, how can you do this? Because I had a year of sacrifice, of not just professional, but the personal sacrifice to build something from scratch and letting everything go. So how can you do that on a constant basis, having a family, having so many struggles around this? So for me, it is like having a light bulb on the right side, where is the future, where I see, okay, this is the future I want my kid to live in. I'm also very bonded to all the kids. When I see kids outside, I'm thinking, oh my God, we are not leaving them the future they deserve. I mean, they didn't do anything. We need to provide their sustainability. They need to be able to enjoy this beautiful planet and everything that we could enjoy. I mean, I am blessed. I lived in communism. I was before phones. I was before internet. I had so different contrast. I had such a full life already. I could die and I would say, wow, I had it all. But the kids that are coming right now, they are at the verge of not exactly having those things. And as Roberta said today in that material and in her TED talk, we don't give enough, and we need to consider the future generations. They won't have that type of future. And with that in mind, I am driven every day. I can take that food and I can take that drink every day because I'm doing this for that. Because nothing is worthy if you just destroy everything around. What if I am the wealthiest person in this world, but I have nothing to enjoy? I don't have a green tree. I don't have a good fruit. I don't have a fertile soil. I don't have the experiences to enjoy around the planet with other people, because we are just all in suffering. We don't have fresh water everywhere on this globe or what to eat, and we are just in misery. That life, I mean, I don't want to live that life. No one should. So for me, that is the motivator. And with that said, this is TLL's mission, and this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. And everyone who is part of TLL shares a little bit of this truth, and I'm very grateful. And so let's begin the second stage, the second year, to start now and to bring tons of good fruit for all of us. And with that being said, I'm waiting with Joaquin on the other side, inside the networking rooms, to mingle and enjoy a coffee or a drink, and to share the feedbacks after our first anniversary event and the launch of our CEO.
Thank you, everybody. We'll see you in the networking.
Bye, everyone.